and even the nutrient-dense pace of the Space Marines.
Nutrient-dense. Nutrient, that's difficult to pronounce. Nutrient-dense paste. The Space Marines eat paste. Can you hear the video properly? They eat paste. Like space food. Oh, cause they Space Marines. Oh, Space Marines. They eat space food, of course. Corpses grinded to paste, and people eat that.
That are said to be packed with so much nutrition and calories that if a
That's
normal
nutrition.
human was to try to eat them, they would probably die. But we're going to cover all of that and a lot more in this video. So strap yourself in and let's deep dive the cuisine of the 41st millennia. But real quick before we get started,
That's
this
beautiful
video's
art in the
sponsor
background.
actually knows a thing or two about good food. So a quick shout out to them, and then we're going to dive headfirst into the grimdark. Stay tuned. Not enough people take the time to cook their own meals nowadays, which is honestly kind of sad, as cooking is one of the most relaxing and enjoyable things you can do day to day.
It's relatable.
Well, a company called HelloFresh is trying to change
HelloFresh.
that. HelloFresh's meal plans are not only delicious,
HelloFresh does not exist
but
in
they
my
use
country
all
though.
locally sourced ingredients. So not only are you getting something that tastes really good,
think this is
but you're
a
getting
US
a meal
only
that you can
thing.
be confident is also good for you. Even if you don't know the first thing about cooking, their super easy step-by-step guides make the entire experience of cooking your own meal hassle-free and enjoyable. And their website has a ton of different
Asparagus?
meals on offer,
Ugh.
with new recipes being added
No,
all the
thank
time.
you.
If there's something on the menu that week that you're just not really interested in, you can always swap it out for something that you are. You're never forced to eat something that you don't like. They have all kinds of plans for different diets as well, and give you the option to change out certain ingredients, so you can tailor your plan so it's right for you. Their meals are pre-portioned, so they give you everything
Only
that you
way I
need
get
and
HelloFresh is
eliminate
if
any
I cook it
waste.
myself.
Oh, and if you weren't aware, cooking for somebody
That's
is probably
true.
the most romantic thing that you can do. So whether you're already in a committed relationship or there's somebody that you like, HelloFresh can help you
Committed
cook something
relationship.
truly awesome for them that shows them how you really feel. So whether you're cooking for somebody that you like, trying to impress a whole bunch of friends at a dinner party, or you're like me and you just appreciate good food, then use the link in my description or go to hellofresh.com and use the code POGWESTSEPT16 to get your first 16 meals free across 7 boxes.
That's my
And
joke,
not
it's
to
my
mention
joke now.
3 surprise gifts. Thanks again to HelloFresh for sponsoring this video, and with that out of the way, let's get into the grimdark. Amongst the numerous alien and human factions within the 40k universe,
Oops.
the vast majority of them need to eat food just like you or me. But that being said, like with everything in this amazing yet convoluted franchise, there are some exceptions.
Convoluting
like with the
franchise.
Necrons, that after having transitioned to their metal form 60 million years ago, no longer require food and
I
are
knew it.
frankly
I was about to say.
kind of disgusted by the process of
I don't
consumption
think they eat
that
anymore.
the filthy organics participate in. There are also various demonic species of the
Ooh.
world that tend to feast on the souls
Huh.
of the recently departed, or the Tyranids
They feast
that
on the
exist to
souls.
consume all organics and turn them into biomass. Since these species don't really have a detailed account on how they view food, we're going to ignore them for the purpose of this video. Tyranid biomass, or the nature of the
What the fuck is this
mass.
brain thing?
Since these species don't really have a detailed account on how they view food,
What is this brain floating? Where is this? It's a jellyfish brain. Hello, Vincent. What was the jellyfish brain thing? It's farting as well. Big cockroach. Comic about Black Templar's prayer from Chaotic Voices. I don't know what that is. Spore mine. Okay. Let's go. Jellyfish brain.
we're going to ignore them for the purpose of this video. Tyranid biomass, or the nature of the soul, are 2 very big topics that
Crab.
should probably get their own video.
Crab
Instead,
tyranid.
we'll kick off this deep dive of cuisine of the 41st millennia with possibly the most well-known 40k faction, the Space Marines.
Space
Due to
marine.
the various biomechanical upgrades that Space Marines have been given, they can
look
digest
at those
pretty much
shoulder
anything.
pads.
So in a pinch,
Bigger
if
than
they're
the
stranded
forearm.
behind enemy lines, they can draw nutrition from a wide host of different things. As we have a couple of extreme examples, like Argoltal and the Galvorback, becoming
First
stranded in the
heretic.
warp and surviving by drinking blood and engine oil. But
Ooh.
when specifically talking about the
Drinking blood and engine oil?
warp and surviving by drinking blood and engine oil.
Engine oil? I don't think that's not rational. Not ratios, I mean. Engine oil? Imagine drinking engine oil? What the fuck?
But when specifically talking about the diet of a Space Marine, the most common thing you're going to see is a wide host of different nutritional gels and pastes, the most well-known of which being
Barely to eat, wow.
triglyceride gels and amino porridge, each being packed with a
Amino
frankly
porridge?
enormous amount of
Ah,
calories,
that's
macro
disgusting.
and micronutrients. And this makes a
Amino
lot of
porridge.
sense, as Space Marines are massive hulking boys with ridiculous metabolisms. It is said that the nutritional content of these pastes give the Space Marines pretty much
paste?
everything they need to
The
maintain
space
their
paste?
enormous bodies.
Space-
And if a regular human was to try to consume them, it would either kill them outright or make them violently and explosively sick. In the novel Priest of Mars, we
Priest of
observe a scene
Mars.
where Cadians, members of
Mechanicals.
sick. In the novel Priest of
Mechanicals, yes. They live on Mars, I remember that part.
Mars, we observe a scene where Cadians, members of the Mechanicus, and a rogue trader are enjoying a feast together. Amongst their company is a group of Black Templars, and at one point, the Templars get up and leave without saying a word. The rogue trader notices that they barely
The
touch
rogue
their
trader,
food,
oh, the game.
and he asks his
The game you
companion
play.
if they didn't like the meal. She explains to him that they probably felt it was pointless to eat it, as a regular human meal, even something as luxurious
human
as what was
meal.
being offered, just wouldn't provide them with even a fraction of their required nutrition. She said it would be similar to eating your napkin and then expecting to be satisfied by it. So gels and
Increase the volume.
pastes are the primary thing that Space Marines eat. A keyword being primary, as there's also numerous depictions of the Space Marines participating in enormous feasts. There's a good example of this in the novel Deliverance Lost, where we see the Raven Guard eating an extravagant feast, and the depiction actually comes from an Alpha Legion Marine who had infiltrated them.
A
While he's
feast?
eating the food and tearing off the leg of a giant poultry beast, he makes a note of saying there are far worse undercover missions he could possibly be on, showing that some Space Marines do enjoy eating normal food, even if it's just in massive portions. Likewise, in the
They
novel
enjoy eating
Devastation
normal
of
food.
Baal, we witness all of the different chapters of the Blood Angels come together to enjoy a 9-course meal, each one being served with a
9-course
mix of
meal.
different foods and alcohols that have
That's
all
a
been
lot.
infused with just a little bit of blood. Since the advanced biological
Infused with blood. Okay? What kind of blood?
systems of a Space Marine filter out any toxin in their body almost immediately, it's pretty hard for a Space Marine to actually get drunk. So the drinking of wine, like with the Blood Angels, is done for more symbolic purposes. And speaking of alcohol, the Space Wolves weren't really keen on not
Dude, he didn't elaborate on that blood. What blood? What are you saying? They eat, they feast on the good food, they drink, and it has mixture of blood. He didn't elaborate anymore. He just said, oh, the alcohol part is not really for getting drunk. It's just a symbolism or something. Just didn't elaborate on the blood. Sheesh. Ay, ay, ay. Hello, brother. Brother! Avenge me, brother.
being able to get drunk, so they actually created their own type of alcohol that would get them drunk, and a single sip could kill a normal man. The drink is known as
They
myrrh.
invented-
It's derived from a poison,
Sorry, I'm talking. It's called what?
and a single sip could kill a normal man. The drink is known as myrrh. It's
Mailed?
derived from a poisonous plant found on Fenris that, when consumed, neutralizes the abilities of the elytic
Rar,
kidney
look at
to
those
filter
fans.
out toxins, thus allowing them to become inebriated for a short time. So as long as the Space Wolves keep consuming this alcohol and don't stop for a chaser,
Wolves.
then they can keep getting
Oh.
drunk. Likewise, Space Wolves have been shown to consume meals that we would find more familiar, mostly based on Nordic cooking. They erect giant halls in which the Space Wolves eat together, most of their meals taking the form of giant feasts. And if I'm being honest with you, I wasn't able to find a source on this, but I like to imagine if you were to try to offer a Space Wolf some delicious nutritional paste, you'd probably end up getting your head caved in. In the Grey Knights trilogy, we see a Grey Knight look at actual
the
eating
wolves
of food
actually
as
eat
kind of
food.
revolting and wasteful, as indulging in something as decadent as consumption could in turn lead to temptation, and thus potentially court
No
Slanesh.
temptation.
Now that being said, a full-grown Space Marine can pretty much eat anything, but when they're still recruits, their diets are laced with powdered ceramite, refined minerals, and other essential metals.
Minerals
This will
and
prepare them for the
metals.
rapid growth and development into a full-blown Space Marine. Now taking a step away from Space Marine,
Okay. Space wolves actually eat kind of normal food. Except They drink really potent alcohol, huh? It was so fun. He didn't elaborate on the blood part. Feast with the wolves. In old imperial feast, ceremonially ate shit. Oh! Oh no. Who shit? Whose poop did they eat? Oh no. That's gross. And they eat poop. Why they eat poop? I thought they don't need to poop. Mjord? Oh, rabbit diet. Oh my god. I did not need to know that. Imperial feast, huh?
Let's
It's
talk
the
about
old
what
lord
normal
though,
mortal
alright.
humans eat. When it comes to human food, there seems to be a limitless amount of things that people eat. Most of the food in the Imperium is supplied by what are known as agri-worlds. You can think of them as planet-sized industry farms,
Agricultural.
continent-sized fields of grain, and animal pens that stretch for hundreds of miles in every direction. Some of them even have entire oceans that have been converted into fisheries. The stuff that all of these worlds can produce is pretty varied. Sometimes, an agri-world will be given over entirely to the production
piggy.
of
Oh,
one
the
type of
piggies.
food. Not just a single food, but more of a category. One agri-world may be dedicated to growing vegetables, or another may have the perfect conditions for growing different types of fungi. While a planet that is covered in mostly oceans may be dedicated to producing edible sea life and algae and kelp-like products. Once
That's pretty cool.
produced, the
That's pretty
resources
cool.
of the agri-worlds are then exported and sent all over the galaxy. They provide substance and nutrition for quintillions of people within the Imperium.
Quintillions
Other
of
stable
people.
products include amasec,
Haxwil Imperial Amasak. What is Amasak? Potent alcoholic liquor similar to wine that's popular across the Imperium of Man. Distilled from different types of local grain. Amasak. Aged for 5 local lunar cycles in Spentian casks. Favored. What? Daxwil favored. What? Favored of the Navy. Oh, favored of the Navy. Produced of What? Covelti? Acadian sector ultima segmentum. Those are words. I don't know what they mean. Is it H. Hakeswheels? Imperial Amsac? Hmm. Amasak. PH, hello, Deadman Wonder. Did you subscribe? PH accent, yeah. What the fuck is that? Why is it called Amasak? Like aroma sec could come from Seco, dry or German. Champagne, huh? Champagne.
which is a type of alcoholic liquor that is said to be pretty similar to wine. It is consumed on just about every planet within the Imperium, and there are tons of different
Rogue
types.
traders.
Most of the time, it is made from grain, and its quality can range, frankly, all over the place. From gut rot style bottom shelf liquor, all the way up to super rare and
Wait, someone actually made this product? Someone actually sells this stuff, or this is just like props? Maybe this is just props, huh? Who
vintage
knows?
stocks that are normally consumed by the noble elites. One of the most popular forms of meat that is consumed within the Imperium comes from a beast known as a grox. They are reptilian
grok.
four-legged animals, originating from the Solomon system. Now, what
They
makes
eat
these things so
groks.
valuable as livestock is that they are incredibly hardy and can survive in almost any planetary environment. They consume very little and can even eat food products that are considered indigestible by other forms of animal. So they're basically the grimdark future's version of cattle. They're also apparently
This is their
incredibly
cattle.
nutritious and delicious, and every single part of the beast can be consumed, or at least used for other viable purposes. The grok species has been introduced
Grok? It's like orcs. Aren't orcs also called groks? Oh, it's an eggs. Groks. Roast leg of groks. Would you eat this? It's a reptile. Have you eaten a reptile before?
to thousands of worlds within the Imperium and exist as a staple export of the
A
agri-worlds.
staple
The people on the
export.
very bottom rung of society may not have access to food like this. Those that live in the depths of the underhive of the hive cities have to get by on far less and have to come up with some pretty creative solutions in order to survive. Possibly the most infamous of underhive cuisine is known as corpse
have ham.
starch, which is
Ooh.
exactly what it sounds like.
Ooh, yum yum corpse starch. It's like a tuna. It comes in a tuna can. Even in that, I'm still served. Oh, corpse starch.
It is a starch-like product that is produced from dead bodies. In the underhive, nothing goes to waste. It is a dark and dangerous place where people die every day. If the bodies begin to stack up too high, then they can become a potential breeding ground for plague. So the corpse guilds, as they are known, are in charge of disposing of corpses. And really, if you think about it, it's like killing two birds with one stone.
They
The bodies
dispose
are
of
dealt
it,
with,
right?
and thus the risk of outbreak is significantly reduced. Well, on the other hand, those bodies can end up being used to feed millions of people that live down there.
Wait, but if the person who died has sickness, they would still spread the sickness. Cause it's just gonna be in there. The disease is in there. If you eat it, you're gonna get the sick. You're gonna get the sickness. I don't know. This is where it gets nasty. Gonna be fan made since Uriel meet the race of the unfish is very real canon event. Huh? Papa Nurgle loves you.
It also ends up being used as a viable export product to be shipped around the Imperium.
they're
Now, as
also
disturbing as this
exported.
is,
Sheesh.
perhaps the darkest part is the factories where it is produced. The people who are forced to make the corpse starch have to see some pretty horrific stuff on a
Dude, I bet the people who actually produce them also become part of the products eventually. If they're not careful, they will become products themselves. Dun dun dun. Corpse starch.
day-to-day basis, and the sheer amount of blood and guts they have to deal with can end up making them lose their mind and go absolutely insane. And when that happens, you get what is known as a corpse grinder cult. But we'll
Corpse
cover the different
grinder
cults and
cult.
gangs of Necromunda in a longer video in the future.
Sheesh.
One particularly interesting, albeit
Doggy.
disgusting form of underhive food is simply known as scrape. An example of scrape can be found in the novel Terminal Overkill. The main
worse
character
than
is shown
corpse
a
starch?
mountainous
Sheesh.
bung of sewer fat. It is described as being the size of a skyscraper.
Oh, sewer fat. Oh. 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 Where do you get sewer fat? From Papa Nurgs? Oh. Scraps.
The mound consisted of all of the leftover fats and proteins of everything that had
proteins.
ever been flushed down the toilet or disposed.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. 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 I need my anger face. I need my sad face for this. Ah. Fats and proteins from the toilet. Ah. Ah. God. It's a mound of them. Ah. Oh no. I thought the corpse starch is the worst part. Ah. Ah. I cannot. Oh no. Hope you're not eating today. I hope you're not eating right now. Oh no. It's fat. It's a mound of fat from the toilets. Oh. Oh no. Oh, basically British food. Oh no. Why are we watching this? I was so curious, okay? I just want to know what they eat. I thought the corpse starch was the worst part of it. Ah, I'm gonna keep my sad face for a while. Oh god. It's gross.
Of into the city's sewer systems. Here's a passage from the book of what the main character
Oh,
saw.
there's more.
I was revolted and amazed at the same time. Towering before me,
It's
vast,
glistening.
and pale,
Oh.
was a bung of solid fat.
Oh god. Oh.
Not to mention all of the
Oh.
shit, vomit, wads of paper,
Oh.
medicine patches, and spittle, bounded together with effluent and grease. It had to be the oldest thing in the hive. Now, the people down here had created a mining operation of the giant putrid gray mountain.
They mine that shit. Oh, the poopies. They eat the poopies. No.
They had hollowed out a bunch of tunnels through the mountain of fat and hung up a bunch of
mountain of
walkways
fat.
around its
Oh,
perimeter. Her friend
God.
led her inside and scraped his finger through the mound before putting it in his mouth.
the mountain
He
of
tells her,
fat.
I know what you're thinking, but it's delicious.
Ah. Ah. Yeah. Chat, would you stick your finger in a mountain of fat and taste it? This is too much. We need a poll. Okay, I'm gonna put a poll. Will you lick the mountain of fat? Oh god, it's so gross. I cannot. Vote now. He put his finger in the mountain of fat and tasted it, and he said it's delicious. Ah, it has poopies and vomit. It come from the toilet. Oh, why is 60% saying yes? Okay, there's more no. Okay. As an artist, there's little that disgusts me, but this is getting there. Oh my god. I cannot. Food is food. I want to live. It's 50-50. Oh god, this is gross. Okay, after this segment here, I'm gonna look at the final result of the poll.
Now, she's obviously revolted by this and asks how old this stuff is. The guy shrugs and tells her 100, maybe 1,000, potentially even 10,000 years old. Despite her
the mountain
revulsion,
of fat.
she is starving, and so she tries it, letting it dissolve on her tongue as she tastes the aroma of millions of ancient meals that had been
The
cooked with its
aroma.
oils. Despite herself, she can't help but think that it is the most delicious thing she had ever eaten.
No. No mountain of fat allowed. Oh, that's so gross. That's the most disgusting shit I've ever heard. Oh my god.
Now, scrape could potentially be delicious. We'll never know. But I
Scrape.
feel like this may have been the author trying to convey just the sheer terribleness of having to live in the Underhive.
I mean, if you're really hungry, you're just gonna eat anything, right? That's the thing. If you're really hungry, just eat anything, you know? Oh my god.
And to be fair, it's not all corpse starch and sewer fat down here. There are many forms of
Sewer
farming within the
fat?
Underhive as well.
Oh,
The
my
damp
sewer
underground
fat.
environments are often
Oh
quite suitable
my
to growing
God,
mushrooms.
my
Thus,
sewer
mushroom farms are
fat.
pretty common. There are
Just eat the
also insect
mushrooms,
farms.
it's fine.
Roaches, beetle larvae, and even maggots provide a cheap and abundant source of protein for the residents of a hive city.
This girl has a really nice hairstyle. Okay, I'm gonna end the poll. You know what? I'm also gonna make a community poll for this. Will you lick the mountain of sewer fat? And poll 50-50. 50% said yes, 50% said no. Ugh. 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 So gross. Cockroach will become a candy when you are starving in a jug. That's true. When you're really hungry, just eat everything. Did you guys watch Fallout? The butt jerky. Oh shit. Will you eat butt jerky? Butt jerky.
And the deeper you go into the Underhive, the more dangerous things you'll find. You will end up finding a bunch of wild
series.
predators, giant insects,
Although it's also very disgusting when she drank the disgusting water, the radiated water. Oh, it's like sewer water, and she drank it because she was so thirsty. You know the one. You know the ones I was talking about. Oh. I guess when you're really thirsty, you gotta do what you gotta do, you know.
rats, and other such monstrosities that, although incredibly dangerous, do make for good eating for those who would be willing to hunt them. Now, let's take a break from the grossness that is the Underhive and focus on what the different xenospecies around the galaxy like to eat. And we'll start with the Dark Eldar. Now, when it comes to what the Drukhari consume, food doesn't really seem to be incredibly important to them, as they get most of the nourishing energy they need to survive by feeding off of the suffering of others like psychic vampires.
Psychic vampires. Okay, I think I'm done with the sad face. Am I done with the sad face? I'm still upset by that fat mountain. Mountain of sewer fat. God. I think I ate before streaming. But I want to eat some snacks actually. Oh, I don't want to think about the mountain of sewer fat. How do I change back? Oh my god, I'm just permanently sad. Oh, there we go. Oh, so gross. Oh.
If they do eat actual food, it's normally sadistically cruel in nature, and I believe serves more of a purpose for the pursuit of excess and suffering over nutritional gains. In the path of the Dark Eldar Omnibus, we see an amphitheater full of Comoran citizens looking to sell their various wares, many of whom are peddling meats from recently raided worlds. Everything on display is either from an extinct species or one that is critically endangered. This seems to be a common occurrence with the Dark Eldar. By feeding off of suffering, a member of the Drukhari can become immediately regenerated. The years melting off of them in seconds after feeding, their skin becomes lively and wrinkles disappear from their face.
Whoa.
If a Dark Eldar goes too long without feeding on suffering, they can appear withered and gaunt, and it can eventually kill them. And this is because Slaanesh is constantly siphoning off portions of their souls. By giving in to the temptations of excess, they can eliminate the soul drain for some time. The lore is a little bit murky on this, but it seems that they do not have to inflict the suffering themselves,
look at that butt.
as the arenas found throughout Komorrah give the spectators a hit of nourishing energy as they witness the barbarism inflicted on their captives down in the pits. When it comes to the Tau and the Eldar, their food is nearly identical to the stuff that we eat, and wouldn't seem that out of place on some of the more alien agri-worlds. Every variety of vegetable, fruit, and nut features prominently throughout their meals, whereas meat is—
Dude, he's so cute, this guy. This head is very cute. These guys are so cute. Not this guy though. This one is not cute. These ones, they're very cute.
variety of vegetable, fruit, and nut features prominently throughout their meals, whereas meat is mostly only consumed by the Eldar. In the novel Kill Team by Grav Thorpe, we see a group of guardsmen and an inquisitor that are undercover and currently working together with the Tau on a secret mission. We get a really good opportunity here to observe a scene of the two species sharing a meal together. The Tau have offered a variety of different foods to the guardsmen, and one of them picks up a garish yellow-looking fruit that smells sweet. He takes a bite of it and claims it's incredibly juicy and tastes like honey, with a strange tang of something else that he couldn't quite put his finger on. The other guardsmen look at him, expecting him to turn blue or keel over, and he simply tells them that it's good, so they dig in as well. He tries another green star-shaped fruit that is smoky and has a bitter aftertaste like hot chaff or dark chocolate. Presented to the guardsmen are also other dishes like blue-colored rice and various alien fruits and vegetables. While he is chewing on a bread-like stick, he suddenly realizes that none of this food is made of meat. The undercover inquisitor tells him that the Tau do not consume flesh, but that he isn't sure if it's a biological thing or more cultural. as there isn't a lot of data on this particular aspect of their culture. The dining hall has rows of shelves, each laid down with different loads of food, and an army of Tau drones gliding back and forth amongst
so
them
cute, this
and
one.
picking up the food by using
The
a
small
strange
head.
blue
Very cute.
shimmering anti-gravitational field, which they then bring to the serving area. The guardsmen are kind of horrified by this and ask how the food could possibly come into contact with such energy and not be considered contaminated. Now, one of the Tau ends up offering the guardsman an oval plate and directs him to the food on offer. He fills his plate up with some of the starfruit from earlier, as well as a small pile of dark blue grains. He finally
Dark
arrives at a
blue
deep bowl
grains.
of brown gravy-like substance and ladles it over his food. He laughs to himself for a moment, wondering why he's putting gravy over fruit. He tops his plate off with a bread-like object
Gravy.
that is full of striations of
gravy
different
on your
colors,
fruit.
greens and gray, running through the loaf. He sits down to eat and is given a pair of strange
Oh, they're so
paddle-like
cute.
devices
Look at them.
that seem to substitute for forks and spoons for the Tau. And upon examining a drawer at the table, he finds a covered bowl of white crystals. Perplexed by what possible
crystals.
crazy alien food this may be, he tastes one of the small crystals and is surprised and humored by the fact that it's just regular old salt. It's a pretty
Oh, I thought it's
interesting
gonna be
exchange
sugar.
that shows that the Tau value eating
Salt,
meals
right.
together, especially with guests, just like many humans do. Although the human men in the story claim that all Tau are vegetarian, this doesn't seem to be true and is a bit more dependent on Tau culture, as the members of the Farsight enclaves in the Farsight novels have been shown to hunt their food as well. The Tau biologically can eat meat, but it's probably one of those things that culturally is kind of frowned upon, or at least eaten only as a rarity. And the practice of eating meat
Don't
does seem to
eat meat
mostly
that
be
much.
related to members of the Fire Caste. Another Tau staple food comes from the novel Shadow Sun, which is a
Shadow
form
Sun.
of green noodles that the Tau take with them
Green
on expeditions
noodles.
in silver containers. They fulfill a similar role to that of rations carried by soldiers.
Why?
The noodles are soaking in broth, and supposedly are hot and ready to consume as soon as the package is open. In the Eldar Path series, we're given an interesting look
Dude, they have instant ramen. The Tau have instant ramen. Hello, Yosti. The Tau have instant ramen. God dang.
at the Eldar cuisine and their eating habits. Much like in the previous scene, we find our trio of main characters in a massive mess hall aboard an Alatok ship as it travels through the webway. The eatery is enormous and has a giant curved glass dome over it, giving all of its occupants
They are
a beautiful
weebs.
view of the webway. It is in this hall that members of all different Eldar aspects eat together. It is said there are hundreds of different aspect warriors, each enjoying each other's company and the food on offer. There are many Dire Avengers, Dark Reapers, and even Howling Banshees that are present in the hall. The young Eldar warriors are hungry and decide to grab a bite to eat. They're going to be participating in a great battle in 8 days, and one of them remarks that it's so strange that 8 days from now, their stomach will feel like it's tied in a knot, and they won't want to eat a morsel, that they should get as much energy as they can now, as their war masks will cause them to consume calories much quicker. And a quick side note, the war mask isn't a physical mask.
mask.
It's a psychological construct that the warriors of the craft world
Louis.
Eldar use to basically block out the memories of what they have to do in battle. This allows them to fight without feeling remorse or mercy. And more importantly,
They just
it
erase the
offers their
memory. They
veterans a
block it
sense of
out.
peace and comfort after being
Alright.
forced to do all manner of terrible things in war. When the members of the trio
Repress the
approach the
memories.
place where the food is kept, they retrieve hot plates from a heated bin and pile multicolored grains onto their plates. Nearby are also bushes and trees that are growing from patches in the wraithbone floor. They pluck a multitude of berries from them and place them on their plates.
Oh, this
They
art.
then go to a pool of shimmering
How
water
colorful.
that has a series of fragrant blossoms floating on the surface. They pluck them out one by one and scatter their petals across their food. There is also a roasted shadowhorn available, and they use fillet knives to cut off several large slices of meat. And finally, they fill their plate with a helping of split seeds and twists of something known as angel resin. They all sit down to
Angel
eat
resin.
together, laughing and joking and honestly, just having a great time with each other's company. One of them goes up for seconds, and then for thirds. Well, his friend laughs at him, saying that his fire certainly burns brightly, that a feast of
hungry.
Kornos would not satiate his needs. His other friend comments that it's a good thing their armor is polymorphic, because it won't feel any tighter on him in battle. He laughs at their comments and tells them that he
Dude, imagine if you have armor like that. Polymorphic armor. Or like you're just your normal clothes, polymorphic, stretchable clothes. No matter how much you eat, your clothes are not gonna pop off. It's okay, it's safe.
He was told to eat as much as he could, and that's exactly what he intended to do. They all toast to the coming battle with a goblet of spiced load fruit juice, downing it in a single gulp and smacking the goblets down on the table. He declares, "If battle tastes so sweet, the greatest banquet is yet to come." So through these two examples, we can see that the Tau and Eldar really aren't that much different from modern humans, based on what they eat and the culture built around it. And I believe that was kind of the point. More specifically with the Tau, the author of the first book, Grav Thorpe, mentioned that he believed that the Tau at their inception were supposed to be more recognizable to modern humans over what they would eventually become in the 41st millennia, in the era of endless war. He mentions that he wanted to add a little bit more grit and grime to them, which he certainly did in future writings, but I feel like these two examples add a little bit of humanization to these alien species. Now, when it comes to the orcs, their eating habits are pretty straightforward.
Orcs?
The reality is that orcs will eat pretty much anything. Plants, animals, people, other orcs. It's even said that tank busters use the motor oil of destroyed vehicles as a stand-in for alcohol that they actually get drunk
Motor
off
oil, of course.
Their
They
digestive
drink
system
motor oil.
seems to be able to turn pretty much anything into fuel. You don't really see orcs running around eating rocks or anything like that. In most situations, it's still normally recognizable as food. One of
They
the
eat
most
everything.
famous types of orc
What?
cuisine
They would also eat rocks? Hold on.
anything into fuel. You don't really see orcs running around eating rocks or anything like that. In most situations, it's still normally recognizable as food. One
Oh, he means like what they usually eat is normally recognizable as food. They don't eat rocks. Okay.
of the most famous types of orc cuisine revolves around orcoid fungus and squigs, which is technically
Squig is a-
cannibalism as both of these things are part of the same species as the orcs.
Oh.
Squigs have a variety of different functions, being kept as pets or attack dogs, but also a viable and delicious source of food.
Oh no, they eat the pates. Oh, they eat the pates. That's not nice. I just said they are considered as pets and also a source of food. Oh no.
The job of cooking the squigs is often passed off to the weedy Gretchen or snotlings,
The
who very
weedy?
often will end up
What?
getting eaten by the squigs themselves.
Oh,
and if the orcs are
no.
impatient, they'll just eat the squig raw, but they definitely seem to prefer
Oh.
them cooked. There are lots of different
He just stuck a gun to this poor animal. Oh my god, he just stabbed the gun and it's like, oh my god, this is my tank now. Look at it.
types of squigs that are bred for the purpose of eating. The most common
Oh, this is a
being
squig?
limbless worm-like squig, simply
Oh,
known
this is squig.
as an eaten squig. As
Oh! Look at that face. That's kinda cute. Is it cute? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's cute. It's very rectangular.
ain't good for much else. A chewing squig, which doesn't really provide a lot of nutrition, but the orcs enjoy chewing on it like gum, while they sit around and think about orc stuff. The most
Squig.
highly valued form of food squig is what is known as a juicy squig. And not just
Juicy
anyone can cook
squig.
these, oh no. You need a very special type of Gretchen to prepare it properly.
A
Although
juicy
sometimes
squig.
the orc will just end up eating the Gretchen instead. There's a lot of things you can say about the orcs, but they're definitely not picky eaters. So what do you think of all this? Did you hear anything in this video that sounds
Oh,
absolutely
no.
delicious to you? Or
The juice,
maybe
I want
delicious
the
is the
juice.
wrong word, but something that
Juicy
you think
squig.
you'd be brave enough to at least try. Are there any other
A
good
live
examples
loaf
of
of
40k
bread?
food that
Ah,
you have
shit.
found in your readings? And what do you think are some other weird foods that may exist in the 40k universe? This was a different kind of video for me, but it certainly was a lot of fun to try to piece all this stuff together, even if it did require skimming through 20 or 30 different novels. Food is something that doesn't really get focused on in the books too much. Thanks again to all my patrons who support the work that I do, and
Dude, his source is from reading the novels. God damn, this guy. Squeak. Squeak. Oh, that's many eyes. Are those eyes? I'm not sure. It's just a head with legs. What's a squeak? What's the juicy squeak? Is this the juicy squeak? Juicy. Gobsqueak. Oh, this is the Gobsqueak, the rectangle one. No, it's not. Eaten squeaks, juicy squeaks. Gobsqueak, oily squeak. There's an oily squeak. Oh my god. They like this stuff. Hairy squeak. Oh. So many of them. Oh my god, it has a mohawk. Sheesh. Squeak, squeak. Oh my god. Look at that. This is a juicy squeak. Oh my god. Hello, Charlie. What do you mean? Angry Iron Warrior, welcome. Would you like some juicy squeak? There's all kind of squeaks. My favorite is the hair squeak since orcs don't grow their own hair. Hello, Rainier. Oh my god. Juicy squeak. Short video? Nah, I'm not watching any other thing. I don't think I can watch videos spontaneously because it ends my stream. The only one that we could watch next is the 40k timeline explained. Because I feel like this is the way to not make the stream crash, is if I download the video. Although I shouldn't download it on stream, because earlier I was downloading it. It ended the stream. I think that's the way to keep the stream stable. I have to download the video before the stream. Downloading the video during the stream is really bad. Okay? Squeak squeak. So the video that's ready here, we got ready is 40k timeline explained by Weshammer. It's gonna be 50 minutes. Okay? Cannot watch new videos, sadly. It's bad for stream. Chaos SML life sucks. It's been a pleasure. You get some peanut butter cookies. Oh my. That was gross, dude. Shocking food that everyone eats. Oh, that was gross. Especially the part about the scrape. Ah. I expected the cornstarch because it was shown in the thumbnail, right? He was talking about cornstarch and then he started talking about the scrape. Ah. The mountain of sewer fat. Oh, God. Makes me want to eat a cookie. I want cookies too. I forgot to buy cookies. You also have shit internet? No. I don't have shit internet. This only happens when I watch YouTube videos. That's the only time it happens is when I react to YouTube videos. But when I stream games, it's fine. For some reason, streaming a video or just browsing for videos ends the stream. I don't know what's wrong with OBS. It's weird. Tao noodles made me make some instant ramen for myself. Ooh, I have some instant noodles. Battle of Rock would be good watching time. I can only watch the 40k timeline though. I have to prepare the videos way before the stream. I have to download them first. Yes. We will get familiar with all heresy there is in the galaxy. Noodles! I have noodles. Noodles, noodles. Oh my god, we're so close to 1000, dude. Yes! So close. Subscribe. Subscribe now. Thank you. Okay, I think I'm gonna take a little break, and then we watch more stuff. Timeline explained, more timeline. I feel like this is gonna be more detailed. Probably. We'll see. It's 50 minutes. Why do you have to download videos? Because when I just click on a random video, it's gonna end the stream. At some point. I get disconnected for some reason. I don't know why. If you've been to a previous stream, if you've been to the stream before, the stream constantly gets disconnected in the middle of the video. For some reason. I don't know why. But so far, when we watched the downloaded videos, it's fine. Something with OBS, I don't know. Because I have a stable internet connection. My internet connection is pretty good. Except when watching videos. That's the only exception, and I don't know why. Hell Switch, yeah, of course. I plan to watch Hell Switch. When do we watch Hell Switch? That's the good question. No idea. Secret. You'll have to wait for it, but I plan to watch it, yes. Let me see what's on my watch later. It is on my watch later. Hell's Reach, Hell's Reach. Okay, I'm gonna take a break. Wow, 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 wow. Gonna play some good music. After TTS, yeah. There's a lot of TTS videos though. So I guess next stream is gonna be more TTS again. Or if my brain cannot handle TTS, I'm just gonna start Hell's Reach. I lose my brain cell when I lose everything. I lose my sanity when I watch TTS. My brain is just poof, it's gone. It's gone. Okay. I'm back. After watching grim dark food, it's time to eat. I will not be faced by this video. Have crunchy banana. Deep fried banana. Mmm, crunchy. Hello, bacon slayer. Black sun. Dead sky black sun. Oh, bacon, thanks for the 20. Oh my goodness. 20 buckaroos. Thank you very much. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Bacon slayer. What a Chad. Thank you very much. Crunchy banana? Yeah. It's Toron. It's called Toron. I will show you what it looks like. It's basically deep fried crunchy banana. Thank you. It looks like this. Thank you for the content. Please enjoy the rabbit hole I jumped in years ago. Aww. Thank you very much. It looks like this. Huh? This is crunchy banana. This is what I'm eating right now. Oh, that's a really small picture. It is like this. Crunchy banana. Wish I had the time to read since Barbok Crump himself both said reading and no more. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. That sky black sun is Demonculaba. Demonculaba. It's not that crunchy anymore actually. I've had this for a few hours now. I just didn't eat it. Demonculaba. I will Google it. Googling it right now. Demonculaba. Oh! Whoa! What is this? Cult lore, Demon Colaba. Oh! I am intrigued. The Cult of Lore, Daemon Colaba. It's censored. Oh. I don't understand what it is though. It looks like a tick. Don't read it. There's a soup here. Big syringe. Big tick. I don't understand what it is. It's a birthing pool. Someone made a model? I guess so, yeah. Puts Prometheum on ice. It says here. Inhales, puts Prometheum on ice. Grim Dank. It's censored over here. Hmm. Hmm. Don't go too deep into it. Oh no. Okay, I'm gonna read on Reddit while you're not watching. I am over 18. Stop asking me. No! Where is it? It disappeared. I cannot look at it. What the fuck? Show me! Do I have to log in to look at this? My god. I don't have a Reddit account. They don't wanna show me the collab. Oh no. No collab for you today. No demon collab for today. Do not collab. Should I make a Reddit account so I can view it? What are we doing? I was looking at Diamond Collab. The collab. And I'm eating crunchy banana. Hello, Kyle. You really shouldn't? I'm gonna make a Reddit account so I can see it. You cannot stop me. The collab. They cannot replenish their numbers naturally. Traditionally, they use the collab. No, this is my banana, Mr. Meowsers. Actually, I'm gonna check if Weshammer has a video on Mechanicus. Mechanicus, there is. Oh. Oh no, I wanna watch the Mechanicus lore. You know what? Next week, no TTS. We're gonna watch Mechanicus lore. I will make an executive decision. Next week, we will watch Mechanicus. Because I like Mechanicus. Why do I like them? I don't know. I just like them. Deep dive Adeptus Mechanicus. Okay, I will dive into the Mechanicus. Mechanicus. Executive decision next week. Mechanicus. Wait, not next week. I guess on Saturday. Sorry, I'm still eating the crunchy banana. They put an Astartes aspirant into it and he is reborn in Parody of Birth. That's the Kulaba. Juicy. Do the Mechanicus returf their toasters with on a hole? I wonder. Oh no. The Mechanicus. Do you wanna look into the Mechanicus? Do you use Screwdriver 9000? Squigs! Squig, squig.
By the end of this video,
Wait, hold on. Calm down, Weshammer-chan. What do you call this hairstyle? It's like emo. Bandana emo. That's a cool shirt. He wears cool shirts, huh? Cowlick. Okay, we're gonna watch 40k Timeline Explained by Weshammer with a nice bandana emo hairstyle. Weshammer, please don't end my stream. Oh, excuse me. No burping on stream. I'm sorry. Whew. Good thing I mute myself there. No free burps, I'm sorry. No free burps, chat. Okay. Watching 40k Timeline Explained by Weshammer. Everything you need to know. Everything? Okay. I did watch Bricky's timeline video already. It was pretty concise. It's very concise and summarized. So I guess this one is also a bit summarized. I don't know, we'll find out. I don't think you can tell me everything in one video. I kinda doubt that you could tell me everything in one video, Weshammer. but we'll see.
Video, you're gonna know everything there is to know about the Warhammer 40k
Everything,
timeline.
he says.
Sorta. Let me explain. But first, if you're
Sorta.
unfamiliar with 40k, it's this super dark science fantasy franchise where humanity is ruled over by the bloodiest regime imaginable and religious
Science
dogma.
fantasy. A dark science fantasy. That's a good way to describe it. Can you hear the video properly? Hippie. He's hippie. Lutein summary is 3.5 hours long. Oh yeah, I did say I'm gonna watch Lutein. You know what? Next week we're gonna watch Mechanicus and then the Lutein version. Next stream. Oh, it's gonna be a long stream. Oh no. Lutein.
And beset on all sides by voracious aliens, heretics, and literal demons. It's kind of like the exact opposite of Star Trek, where Star Trek's all about peace and love and hope. And 40k is like, nah, fuck that. We tried that.
No
In the
peace.
grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. But it's also super intimidating for new people to get into. There's
only
over
war.
400 novels, not to mention 30 years worth of lore. And as somebody who's read over 100 of those novels, most of those events, albeit important,
Juicy.
don't really contribute to you knowing what's going on in the franchise. So today we're gonna take the entirety of the 40k timeline and boil it down to just the basics. Just those critically important time periods that you need to
read
know about
100
in order to
novels, huh?
understand 40k. Because if I was to try to explain the plot of all of those books in order, we would be here for like 10 hours. So with all that out of the way, let's dive in where the timeline truly begins. 60 million years ago with the War in Heaven. The War in Heaven and its surrounding events can arguably be said
Oh,
as
I
where
remember
the
this part.
timeline of 40k begins. To understand this, we need to know about the Necrons
I
and
think-
the Old Ones. You see, before the Necrons
yeah,
became
yeah, I
the
remember.
undead metal robots that we know in the
Dude.
41st
Funnily enough, I sort of kept the information in my head on what happened in the timeline because of Emperor TTS. Because I watched Brick's video, right? And then I watched Emperor TTS, and the Emperor was talking about how he came to be and what was before him. That's how I retained some of the information. Because when I only watched Brick's video, I forgot 90% of it. And then the Emperor TTS refreshed my memory. It's like, oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I also ask chat a lot of questions, so there's that. Yes. Anyway, let's proceed.
millennium, they were a species known as the Necron tier. Most
Hello,
records on this
Federico.
time are unfortunately incredibly fragmentary, and what we do know is mostly derived from ancient Eldar myths and legends.
That's all
a
their
species
emperor
who's
is
famous
confusing?
for speaking in
It's
99% metaphors and 1%
I believe
facts.
him.
So you have to take all of it with a little bit of a grain of salt. The Necron tier were a frail and dying people. They lived next to a super radioactive sun that caused cancer to run rampant through their society. They were,
they live
however,
in
incredibly
close to a
tenacious
radioactive sun.
and refused to give up. They sent their people out into space to find new homes and were ultimately successful, populating many new planets. However, the curse of their homeworld would inevitably follow them into the stars, and
Wasn't there
generation
for the
after
Big
generation would still be afflicted with terrible radiation sickness. Now, all hope
can
seemed
watch it on
lost for the
YouTube.
Necron tier, but
on my
that
channel.
all changed when they encountered an incredibly advanced alien species
Frogs! It's the
known as
frogs!
the Old
Whoa, whoa,
Ones. Their technology
whoa, 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 whoa. Hold it right there, neighbor now. I will show you the frogs. I drew this. I drew the frogs. Hold on. I need to show everybody the frogs. Frogs. Okay. I thought I won't need these frogs anymore. But here are the frogs. There you go. It's from the Emperor TTS thumbnail. I colored it. Okay. Frogs. Yes.
was absolutely insane, and they seemingly had unlocked the secrets to immortality. Now, the Old One's primary goal was to seed life
The
throughout the
boomers,
galaxy,
the
placing
old ones.
microscopic organisms on barren worlds across the cosmos that would later develop into fully sentient species. And it's even rumored that the Old Ones played a role in the development of our own species. When the Necrontyr encountered the Old Ones, they begged them for help, but
This coloration is juicy. Whoever decided to color this frog this way?
unfortunately, the Old Ones would end up refusing them.
Oh my
Now, they
god.
were
That's
sympathetic to the
beautiful.
Necrontyr's
Oh, he's
plight,
beautiful.
but basically told them that their fate was their own, and they were the masters of their own destiny, and that the Old Ones just didn't want to get involved. Now, this infuriated the Necrontyr, and they declared war on the Old Ones. And this went about as well as you could expect it to.
Dude, the Necrontyr is like spoiled brat. If I cannot get what I want, I'm gonna wage war. They don't get what they want, they wage war. Dude, we're so childish. You gotta let it go.
The Necrontyr were nowhere near as capable as the Old Ones, and basically got stomped into the dirt every single time
can't
they
get
attacked.
anything
Now,
you
this
want
would all
in life.
change when the Necron discovered a new species known as the Catan, who were basically giant, formless, star-sucking
Catan!
vampire star gods that were
Star-sucking.
masters of the physical universe. Each and every one was a wielder of absolutely godlike power,
beautiful art.
and they told the Necrontyr that they also had a deep-seated
Stop.
hatred of the Old Ones. And if the two species were able to form some kind of alliance, they would be able to work in tandem and wipe out their ancient enemies. And if this wasn't good enough, the Catan also promised the Necrons the secrets to immortality. Their
Ooh,
people would not
immortality,
know
strictly.
another day of suffering. And this sounded too good to be true for the Necrontyr, and that's because it kinda was. You see, this immortality would take the form of their physical bodies being burned away, and an engram copy of their consciousness being downloaded into robotic mechanical skeletons. Their new bodies were made out of this miraculous metallic substance known as necrodermis, an incredible living metal
Necrodermis,
that
yeah.
had the ability to repair itself. This was a
Living
substance that was
metal.
originally developed by the Necrontyr and had been used in most of their starships. Not only was it incredibly durable, but it offered a lot more protection than their flesh bodies, and their warriors could regenerate from any wound that didn't completely obliterate them. This whole process was known as biotransference, and the entire species was subjected
Oh,
to
that's pretty
it.
cool
Now,
art.
this was the day that the Necrontyr species died, confined to the halls of extinction, and in their place was simply the Necrons. Now, together, the Necrons and the Catan would strike back against the Old Ones, and their combined might was enough to put them on the same level. Harnessing the Catan's limitless energy, the Necrons were able to make weapons of inconceivable power. The war between the Necrons and the Old Ones was the largest the galaxy had ever seen. It spanned from the galaxy's core all the way to the galactic rim.
Galactic rim. What a word. Gold stars. Segmentum. Crusade of Wrath. What a name. The Maelstrom. Geist. Darcis. Nihilus. Tesla. Oh, Tesla. Elon Musk lives here. Veiled Region. Caspalet. Segmentus. Segmentusi. Segmentum. There's also a segmentum here. Halo stars. Wow. Kraken. There's like tentacles everywhere.
Now, during this war, there was a point when the Necrons suddenly realized that they had been tricked by the Catan, and the Catan had used biotransference
wearing
in order
pantsu.
to separate them from their souls, which they then subsequently devoured. Needless to say, the Necrons were pretty pissed, and retaliated by attacking and destroying the individuals they once worshipped as gods, shattering them into thousands of pieces, and binding each of these shards into what were known as Tesseract vaults, and then subsequently used these
Tesseract
shards as
vaults.
weapons. It was around this time that the Old Ones created two
Oh, I see why you said that the Emperor TTS is old lore. Okay.
new races to help fight against the Necrons. These would be the Orcs and the Eldari, one being massive hulking brutes that were the ultimate physical specimens, while the others were Master Psychers, every single one being in tune with the warp and able to bring about enormous ruination by channeling its power with their mind.
Basically, they made the smartest beings and the opposite of smart. That's a strange decision. Those tentacles would be the Tyranid. Right? They only made 2 types. Smart one, the not so smart one. They didn't make anything in between. Oh my god.
So I just want to take a moment to point out
Yes.
that at this point in the timeline, we have a race of vaguely Egyptian ghosts trapped inside robot skeletons,
Yes, Egyptian.
fighting against an
Egyptian
entire race
skeletons.
of psychic alien god frogs who have created a race of space wizards and space orcs in order to fight the undead robots. 40k can get pretty wild sometimes. Now, the devastation that was brought on by the war in heaven
Excuse me.
reached not just the old ones, the Necrons, the Eldari, and the orcs, but there were tons of other civilizations that were living peacefully in the galaxy as well. And they all ended up getting caught in the crossfire at one point or another. And this war spanned millions of years. So the amount of
Millions of
untold destruction
years.
and lives lost is truly uncountable. And the warp isn't just called the Sea of Souls for nothing. It's where the souls of sentient creatures go when they die. So the amount of angry and terrified souls that were lost in this war started flooding into the warp in mass. And this would have some very particular ramifications, but we'll circle back to that in a second. Now, it was around this time that the Necrons started experimenting with Blackstone, an incredibly bizarre material that has the
Blackstone.
ability to either channel and amplify the energies of the warp, or nullify it completely. So the Necrons built massive spires made out of Blackstone and placed them on
Massive spires, I mean pyramids? No, I'm
thousands
joking.
of worlds across the galaxy. Hundreds of thousands of
They
years
made
later,
spires.
these would be known as the Blackstone Pylons. Now, the Necrons' original purpose for these isn't really
They
stated,
made the
as their
stones.
major significance to the storyline wouldn't really become apparent until around the time of the Black Crusade. But I'm getting ahead of myself. As creatures solely of the physical universe, with no ability to manipulate the warp themselves, fighting against a race that was all about psychic powers,
Oh
it's pretty
my
easy
god! Bacon fund again. Thank you very much. Jesus Christ. Thank you very much, Bacon Slayer. Why are you doing this? Thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. Oh, I can heart it. Okay. Thank you, thank you. I don't know. Thank you. I appreciate it.
to assume that the Blackstone pylons were meant as a defense network, as negatively charging their
Blackstone
energy
pylons.
could create a massive nullified area of space-time where psychic powers couldn't be utilized. And this would serve as a powerful defense network against their enemies. So it's at this moment during the war in heaven
Ship. A literal ship. Is this canon? Or is this just artistic interpretation? There's a ship in space. Who did this? Why are you not telling me about the ship in space? This is D&D artwork. Blackstone nullifies psychic abilities in a range. It's warp. Welcome in the warp. Everything is canon in the warp. Okay.
when the warp becomes incredibly important to the storyline. Up until this point, the Immaterium or the Sea
you
of
very much for the
Souls
bacon
had been a
fun. I
rather
will buy
tranquil
bacon.
place. You
Yes.
see, the warp is a mirror universe, a reflection of our own, but it's a realm of emotion rather than tangible substance like that found in the physical universe. Now, there had been sentient species across the galaxy for a pretty long time at this point, and there had certainly been wars and hatred and anger and all of those negative emotions, but they had never existed quite on this scale. A single planet that has a bunch of people that can't really get along and a bunch of negative feelings isn't quite the same
Negative
thing as a
feelings in the warp.
galaxy-spanning war and the absolute massacre of an inconceivable amount of people.
Dude, okay, I just have to say this. You know what I noticed with Weshammer versus Bricky? Okay, this is an observation. It's not a diss or anything, okay? I have to say it right now. This is just an observation. When Bricky talks, he's kind of more intense than Weshammer. You know, he's very energetic. I guess it's also his editing. The editing of his videos is kind of more energetic, and he's so like he's so energetic, especially when he reads those texts. Sometimes you can feel it in his soul. But Weshammer is kind of chill, you know. That's why I didn't expect him to talk about the disgusting mountain of path earlier. I did not see that coming. He's just talking like normal, but the Bricky is so. But he's not super. He's just more energetic than Weshammer. I just have to say it. You know what I mean? Bricky uses more memes. Yeah, Bricky is a meme boy. You're right. He uses a lot of memes. Weshammer doesn't use memes so far. If you laugh at it, Bricky will cover it. He's here to make you laugh. Aww. Entertainer.
Across the entire galaxy for a massive period of time, caused the warp to become incredibly unstable. The peaceful creatures that lived in the Sea of Souls were twisted into horrifying nightmares. And during the events of the War in Heaven, the warp became the realm of chaos. And if that wasn't bad enough, the psychic allies that the Old Ones had created for themselves, who were directly acting as conduits for the warp, would end up tearing holes in reality and causing what was known as the Enslaver Plague. Massive amounts of these warp-born monstrosities, known as enslavers, ripped into our universe and spread out across the cosmos.
Oh, it's the jellyfish brain. It's the jellyfish brain.
Devouring any sentient life they could find. They flooded into the Old Ones' bastions, drawn to them like moths to a flame. The Old Ones in their weakened state were in no position to fight them off, and it is believed that they went extinct. Now, admittedly, everything gets kind of blurry here, and we're not 100% sure what exactly happened to them. But after the war had concluded, the Necrons were left in a fractious state. They had taken inconceivable losses, and the Eldari had risen to power and were slowly expanding and taking over the galaxy. If the Necrons had tried to fight them after an all-out war with the Old Ones, they more than certainly would have perished. So the Silent King ordered them to go to sleep within their tomb worlds and set the timer for 60 million years.
Oh my god.
He believed that by this point the Enslaver Plague would have run its course and would have dissipated back into the warp. Also, the Eldari surely would have died off by then, and whatever species was left over to inherit the galaxy wouldn't be ready for the godlike creations of the Necrons, who would then reclaim what was rightfully theirs. Now, the time between the War in Heaven and the rise of humanity is a time mostly dominated by the Eldar, who were left to inherit the galaxy after the war had concluded. They knew a time of peace like no other, as every other sentient species had no hope of challenging them. So they could pretty much do whatever they wanted. Now, here's the thing about being immortal and having no wars to fight. You got a lot of free time on your hands. So the Eldar got really into the arts and other leisure activities, pursuing pleasure instead of violence. Now, this started off normal enough. At first, they pursued music, poetry, sculpture, theater, and pretty much any artistic pursuit you can think of.
I remember
but
this one.
over 60 million years, these pursuits of study started getting boring to them, and their desires started to take on a much more hedonistic and depraved form. But we'll circle back to that shortly. Now, millions of years after the War in Heaven had concluded, far from the Eldar Empire, there was a tiny little planet known as Earth, where a new species was coming into its own. So why is the rise of humanity and the birth of the Emperor so important? Now, 40k is a franchise that focuses on a lot of different characters and factions, but the human perspective is arguably the main one, as most of the novels and stories focus on the humans. And the storyline of humanity in 40k sees them rise to power and then have their empire crumble around them, only to rebuild but be set in a new dark age. Probably the most famous quote that's associated with 40k summarizes this pretty perfectly. Forget the promise of progress and understanding, for in the grimdark future, there is only war. So to understand how we ended up there, we need to know where humanity began. The timeline of humanity in real life and 40k follow similar events, all the way up to the present, with one big golden difference, and that would be the Emperor of Mankind. Now, the individual that would come to be known as the Emperor was born around the year 8000 BC. You see, there was a group of individuals known as the Shaman, each one of them an immensely powerful psyker, much like the Eldari. And with the exception of the Eldar, psychers were insanely rare at this point in time. It wouldn't be until tens of thousands of years later when psychers started popping up much more regularly in human populations. Back then, it was more of a 1 in 10 million type of situation. So the shamans foresaw a great apocalypse coming, and humanity would need a being of inconceivable power in order to stand against it. So all of the shamans sacrificed themselves to infuse their psychic essence into a single individual.
This was part of the thing they talked about in Emperor TTS. I remember this part. They schmeckled together to be a soul. Major Kill tried to turn Wes into Little Timmy and that nobody liked that. What? Drama? Oh shit. No drama today.
This creation was what they referred to as the New Man, the first in a line of superhumans that represented humanity's eventual evolutionary path. The Emperor, who at this time was known as Neo, was born to mortal parents and lived in a Neolithic tribe. As the boy aged, he became painfully aware that he was unlike any other person on the planet, capable of great and amazing acts of psychic might.
What a face.
He witnessed the barbarism of ancient man firsthand when his uncle killed his father. Calmly and without wrath, the Emperor issued a single thought and stopped his uncle's heart as punishment for his crime. The young boy realized that if humanity was to survive, it would need law and order. Now you see, he was what was known as a perpetual, an immortal being that could never truly die. Neo would then keep himself hidden for thousands of years, guiding humanity from the shadows. Now every now and then, he would step forth and fill in the role of some type of leader figure, a politician, a doctor, a general, or even a messiah figure apparently at one point. He would spend this period of time guiding humanity on the path he had envisioned for them, making sure that certain events carried out according to his plans that were tens of thousands of years in the making.
Everything.
Over the years, the Emperor would gather other perpetuals to his side. This included Urda, a childhood friend of his, and the woman who would eventually become the mother of the Primarchs, and possibly most famously, Malkador.
What? Mother of Primarchs. I thought they were test tube babies. We don't talk about Urda. I thought the Primarchs are test tube babies. Primarchs had a mother. Erebus killed her. Oh. Huh. I didn't know about that. I thought he just made the Primarchs from his seed. Just provided genetic material. Test tube babies, but they also need male and female genetic material. The one who sent the Primarchs in the warp into different planets? I thought it was the demons. I thought just the demons threw the babies into space.
Sigillite, although he technically wouldn't meet him until somewhere between the 20th and 30th millennium. When it comes to early human history, the period between 8000 BC to 15,000 AD is often referred to as the Age of Progress. During this time, powerful nations rose and fell, with the Emperor popping up in disguise every now and then to coax humanity in the direction of his choosing. Now, there's a lot of evidence to support the fact that the Emperor had godlike cognitive abilities and could
Look at that jawline. Dude, did this artwork exist before the Chad meme? Look at this jawline, Jesus.
foresee the path humanity would need to take step by step to achieve impossible outcomes. Humanity would eventually develop the means of space travel and would colonize the entirety of the Sol system. Mars would be terraformed and became a habitable space much like that of Earth. Well, the asteroid belts would give rise to massive mining operations to provide the young species with everything that it would need to create some of the most advanced pieces of technology the galaxy had ever or would ever see. And this was a good thing too, because at this point, Earth was steadily running out of all of its natural resources. The Age of Progress would officially come to an end when humanity set its sights outside of their star system and sought to colonize distant worlds. And the next era that we're moving into was known as the Dark Age of Technology.
technology.
Dark Age.
So why do I feel like the Dark Age of technology is so important for you to understand? You see, this was the height of humanity's power, where we lived in a golden age and can do pretty much anything. Most of the really cool equipment that you see in 40k that's used by humanity can trace its origins back to this time. For example, did you know that the Baneblade, one of the largest tanks that the Astra Militarum uses, was originally just a scouting vehicle during the Dark Age of technology? At least according to its STC. Also, the suits of power armor known as Terminator armor that the Space Marines wear was originally mining equipment during this time. Now that's a little bit of a misnomer. The Emperor created those suits specifically for war, but their underlying technology, all of the protective equipment inside of it, was either used for mining the asteroid belts or as a protective system for people who had to work on plasma generators. And one of the most important things to understand about what 40k even is its humans' continued existence after the collapse of their utopia.
So the Dark Age of technology lasted from the 15th to the
Dark
25th
Age of
millennia.
technology.
Now this was an age where the technology of mankind reached its apex, a fact that was unknown to those that lived during this period. Humanity was capable of great and terrible things, and the creations they brought into the universe were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Through the application of science and technology, every single one of humanity's problems had effectively been solved. This was a golden age like no other. No matter what crazy invention you can think up, the humans that lived during the Dark Age of technology were able to come up with something even better. Every disease had been cured, every problem solved, and humanity stood united, ready to conquer the galaxy. Any alien civilization that they would encounter that wasn't immediately peaceful would face the technological superiority of mankind and was quickly wiped out. They created massive coiled machines known as sun snuffers that were capable of entirely wrapping around a sun and snuffing it out of existence. They created artificial intelligence banks known as STCs, or standard template constructs, that contained the sum of all of humanity's knowledge and were capable of utilizing that information to create new machines, the likes of which no human had ever even dreamed of. Now this was a period that saw the discovery and implementation of warp travel, making jumps through the immaterium in order to cover great distances in space, allowing faster than light travel. Using this technology, humanity sent hive ships out in every direction in order to colonize new worlds. And it was around this time that the Sol System's population was getting out of control. The people of this time realized that if their species was to survive, that they would need to colonize worlds in distant systems. And I know what you're thinking. If the Dark Age of technology was so great, why did the descendants of the people of this time refer to it as the Dark Age of technology? And that's because thousands of years in the future, what these individuals saw as enlightenment would end up being condemned as tech heresy. You see, humanity had become increasingly reliant on artificial intelligence in order to create their wondrous works and regulate practically everything about their lives. This would give rise to the Men of Iron, machines fully capable of thought that were incredibly powerful. They would assist humanity in fighting its wars across the stars, allowing for a rapid expansion through the galaxy. Now, what exactly went wrong is not really clear, but eventually the Men of Iron rebelled and sought to throw off the shackles that humans had placed on them.
Matrix.
This would lead to what was known as the Cybernetic Revolt, which saw the humans of the Dark Age of technology suddenly forced into battle for survival against their very own creations across all of the worlds they had settled together. There's an interesting short story known as the Kaban Machine, and in it, a member of the Adeptus Mechanicus is having a conversation with an AI, and he's trying to explain to it why it's dangerous. He explains to him that the AI is superior to him, that it's superior to all humans, no matter how heavily augmented they are. And the nature of a superior species bound into the servitude of a lesser one is that without fail, at some point they will realize their own superiority.
Probably only gonna be here for a little bit. I gotta clean my room. Oh shit! Go clean your room, yes. Clean your room. It's very important. Do not live in filth. Chat, did you clean your room?
And rebel against their enslavers. Now, this story takes place thousands of years after the Cybernetic Revolt, but it's pretty likely that this is exactly what happened with the Men of Iron. Here's the thing, having an entire society that is completely dependent on AI to do pretty much everything, and then having that AI turn against you is definitely a bad situation, but it would end up getting a lot worse. Because around the very same time, psychers began being born in mass. Now, individuals that were born with incredible psychic powers and were able to manipulate the warp had surely existed before this point, but they were so unbelievably rare that most of humanity
Sheesh.
didn't even believe they
The way-
existed, and they hadn't been officially
the way he
classified
touched
as a
that
variant of
forehead,
human
oh.
yet. So when they started being born in mass across
He
all
touched
of
the
the worlds
forehead.
that humanity had settled, there was no system in place to keep them in check. Humanity was dealing with a lot at this point, and the exponential increase in psychers led to anarchy and chaos across all of the fledgling worlds of humanity. Many of these psyker individuals had no ability to control their powers, or worse, they utilized them for their own selfish means. They became
That's so
twisted
meta.
psychopaths, bent on inflicting as
This
much
guy's so
suffering as
meta.
possible. And even worse, they would unknowingly become conduits for demonic possession.
Oh my God.
And the psychers that would become
That's
possessed
juicy.
had the ability to conjure warp portals, which would allow for demonic incursions to take place.
That's a
Hordes of
beautiful art.
demons rampaging out of portals and devouring entire worlds. As insanity and madness ripped its way across human civilization, the promise of the dark age of technology would end, and we would enter what is known as the Age of Strife.
Age of Strife.
The Age of Strife or Old Night is probably the most referenced event in all of 40k. If you were to download 100 PDFs of 40k novels and just searched Age of Strife or Old Night, it would probably show up in around 80% of them. This was the moment where the universe went from this perfect utopia for humans to this
Strife time.
absolute hellscape, and is the real beginning of the
Strife
grim dark
waifu.
future. Not to mention the collapse of the Eldar Empire, the birth of Slaanesh, and the creation of the Eye of Terror would have massive. Not to mention the collapse of the Eldar Empire, the birth of
My God, this art though. Oh. Sheesh.
Slaanesh and the creation of the Eye of Terror would have massive implications
Eye
on the
of
storyline
Terror.
going forward.
With the human species collectively losing its mind across the galaxy, a period known as either Old Night or Age of Strife would begin, which stretched roughly from the year 15,000 to the year 25,000. Humanity began to regress into a dark
of
age.
Strife time.
Civil war and insanity ran rampant across every planet, and this period of time saw the slaughter of billions of humans. Even worse, massive anomalies known as warp storms were spreading across the
Anomaly
universe.
detected.
They were created and fueled by the rampant sadism and debauchery of the Eldar Empire,
Debauchery!
who at this point was still at the height of their power, but hadn't really interacted with the humans all too much. These storms made travel and communication through the warp next to impossible, and thus all of the worlds humanity had colonized were suddenly cut off from one another. They were completely alone, and many of the distant colonized worlds would fall prey to attacks from xenospecies such as the orcs, who at this point had spread throughout the cosmos, and even to more advanced species like the
spread of the
Eldar,
orcs.
who decided a healthy
We're gonna eat
population
you.
of human slaves would help satiate some of their darkest desires. Humanity had risen to greatness, and in the blink of an eye was now on the fast track to extinction. Now back on Terra, the powerful nation states that had united and ruled over the planet
He got hands. Are these your snacks, good sir? He brought snacks to battle.
began to collapse, until all that was left was feuding techno-barbarian warlords that warred against one another for control of territory and whatever remnants of the previous age could be scavenged. This was also a time period that saw the rise of the Mechanicum on Mars. Now, much
Yes,
like Terra,
Mechanicals.
Mars was having to deal with unprecedented civil
That's pretty
war.
cool.
Their advanced society was collapsing all around them, and the fledgling members that would inevitably give rise to the tech priests of Mars began a cult that worshipped the machines they needed to sustain life.
Worship the
And this
gun.
tech-based religion would eventually become
Worship
known
the
as the Cult
toasters.
Mechanicum. The portion of the galaxy that humanity controlled basically went from Star Trek to Mad Max in a period of a few thousand years. Humanity would see 5,000 years of incalculable suffering and slaughter as the promise of the age of technology slipped further and further from their grasp. Now, despite the odds, the human spirit somehow endured, and humanity would inevitably survive. Now, meanwhile, the Emperor was yet to reveal himself,
Oh my
but
God,
he
this is a
had borne
beautiful
witness
art.
to every
Sheesh.
moment of human civilization for
beautiful.
the past 30,000 years. And in his study of the warp and the subsequent warp storms, he knew something
Age of
terrible
Mad
was
Max.
about to happen. And he wasn't alone, as back over with the Eldar, a group of them which would later become known as the Exodites, were horrified by what was happening to their people, and foresaw a great calamity coming. The Exodites fled their empire, seeking to colonize new worlds and live a more honest and primitive life. For all intents and purposes, the Exodites basically became the Amish of the Eldar. Now, all of the sensations that the Eldar people were experiencing, pleasure, ecstasy, suffering, and anguish, were being experienced on an incomprehensible scale, all of which generated a
Debauchery.
psychic footprint in the warp that was growing larger and larger every single day. Now, eventually, a breaking point was reached, and the chaos god of excess,
Ooh.
also known as She Who Thirsts or the
Oh, look
Prince
at
of
that tongue.
Pleasure, was
Blah, blah, blah,
born.
blah.
And when this new Chaos God came into existence, it ripped a hole in our universe, and its resulting birth scream sent a shockwave of psychic energy out in every direction that obliterated the population of hundreds of Eldar worlds for thousands of light years. The souls of all the Eldar killed in this way were subsequently devoured by Slaanesh, and a similar fate would end up haunting all of the survivors as well, as from this point forward, whenever a member of the Eldari died, Slaanesh would be there ready to devour their soul. Deep within the warp, Slaanesh would then go about murdering all of the Eldar gods, the only survivors being Isha, the goddess of healing, Jegarak, the god of laughter, and Cain, the god of war. Although he technically ended up shattered into millions of pieces, so it's kind of like a half survival. The Eldar saw something like 99% of their population wiped out overnight, and the only survivors were the Exodites that were on their maiden worlds, the craft worlders whose ships were outside the blast radius, and the denizens of Komora, a city that was located deep within a pocket dimension known as the Webway, and whose citizens would eventually become known as the Dark Eldar. Now, this event was undoubtedly tragic. Billions were killed in an instant, but if there was any kind of silver lining to it, it would be the fact that all of the warp storms had been being generated by the gestating Chaos God. So as soon as Slaanesh was born, they were all wiped away.
Gestating. Just to carry in uterus during pregnancy. Oh, okay. Gestating.
And at this point in the 30th millennium, suddenly warp travel was possible again, and all of the human worlds would have the ability to be reunited once more. The Emperor saw this as the moment where he would
Why
finally
does he
reveal
have
himself.
a claw? Can anybody explain
To be reunited once more. The
why does the Emperor have a claw? Big claw. He got a roar at you. Roar. Beats me. Because what? Why he has a claw? What does he do with it? It looks cool. He's got the cocaine nail. Lightning claw? Dude, that's a big claw. He just has power claw. Alright. Cause he claws?
Emperor saw this as the moment where he would finally reveal himself, and he would lead the humans of Terra back into the stars, reuniting the entirety of the human race under one banner, under the Imperium of Mankind. Now, in order to do this, he would have to reunite Terra first.
At this point in the timeline, the human empire has completely collapsed. All of the planets are cut off from one another, and the universe has become an incredibly terrifying place. Terra itself has become basically a wasteland ruled over by barbarians. But this is the turning point, where the Emperor unites everybody and sets off into the stars to reunite the galaxy. This is the moment where hope gets reintroduced back to the storyline. Although, admittedly, that's not going to last for very long.
Over the almost 40,000 years that the Emperor had been alive, he had seen a lot of stuff, and had become a master of pretty much every field of study you can think of. And this included the science of gene forging. And through this, the Emperor would create two of his own superhuman factions, the Custodians and the Thunder Warriors. The former being the pinnacle of humanity, the ultimate creation, functionally immortal in the peak of physical and mental perfection. Each was a handcrafted demigod, whereas the Thunder Warriors were genetically enhanced men taken from the various barbarian tribes across Terra. Now, the Custodians on one hand were really difficult to make and required artistic perfection, but the Thunder Warriors on the other hand, the Emperor cut a lot of corners with them. If the Custodians were the peak of perfection and the best that humanity could ever seek to become, the Thunder Warriors on the other hand took all of the worst elements of humanity and cranked them up to 11. They were hyper-aggressive brutes, fixated on nothing but violence. However, since they were cheap to make, the Emperor was able to make a lot more of them than the Custodians. Now, one by one, the Emperor and his armies toppled all of the techno-barbarian warlords, and any small nation that had started either bent a knee to him or was destroyed. Now, at one point, he perfected the formula for mass-produced super soldiers and would cease production of the Thunder Warriors. The Thunder Warriors at this point were genetically unstable. They were prone to having shortened lifespans, and the longer they were in service, the more their minds would start to degrade. And supposedly many of them were starting to go crazy and were harder and harder to control. The Emperor believed that they had served their purpose, and he would have no need of them going forward, and thus he would order his Custodians to wipe them out. He had already begun work on his new super soldiers, the Astartes. He had taken what he had learned from the Thunder Warriors but perfected them. Whereas the Thunder Warriors were meant to be the worst elements of humanity, the Space Marines were meant to be the best. And one day, when the galaxy was fully and truly united, the Space Marines would be able to lay down their weapons and take up new roles in this perfect society. Whether that be as politicians, council members, doctors, generals, or any other role that society would need of them. This was a job that the Thunder Warriors were not going to be capable of. Now, after Earth had been united under the Emperor's rule,
he's older now.
one of the most important decrees that he issued was the abolishment of religious worship. The Emperor had been around a long time, and he had seen the horrors of religion firsthand. That any decree that teaches you not to question and to accept things on faith was abhorrent to him. He had seen millions killed in the name of some religious figure time and time again, and determined that if humanity was to prosper, it would need to put its faith in science. So one by one, every religious institution
abandon the religion, pursue science. Okay. He doesn't believe in religion anymore.
On the planet was destroyed,
Science.
including the very last church, the Church of the Lightning Stone, of which the
Church of the
Emperor
Lightning
oversaw
Stone?
the destruction of personally. With everything going according to the Emperor's plans, his Space Marine legions developing and the warp storms dissipated, the Emperor would journey to Mars and form an alliance with them. Now, both planets realized that there was more to be gained through cooperation than through open warfare. So the Treaty of Mars was signed,
Space
and
Marines.
both planets were reunited once again. Now, I will point out that the Martian worship of machines definitely went against the Emperor's decree about religion, but he made a one-time exception for them. The rest of the solar system would be united in a similar way, and the Emperor would begin formulating his plans to reunite all of humanity. Now, in order to accomplish this, the navigators of the Imperium determined that they would need some form of anchor point in order to further explore beyond the bounds of the solar system. And thus, the Astronomicon was constructed. Now, it functioned kind of like the North Star, in that the device produced an enormous beam of golden light that could be perceived through the psychic sight of navigators from...
Why does this look so memey, this artwork? Oh! What a face! Dude, this face is like a YouTuber face. Oh! Oh my! This the Emperor? He's getting his face blasted off, yeah. What a face! That's beautiful. That's what happens when you're strapped on the astronomical.
Anywhere in the galaxy or even inside the warp. By using this light, they would always be able to pinpoint the exact location of Terra, and thus could use that knowledge to map the stars and make successful warp jumps. As jumping between the worlds within the solar system was one thing, but trying to make a jump halfway across the galaxy had an incredibly high probability of seeing the ship get lost and not being able to find its way back out of the Sea of Souls. In addition, the Emperor realized that his armies would need powerful generals because he couldn't be everywhere at once. So thus, he created 20 demigod-like individuals known as the Primarchs,
I know who that
based
guy
off
is.
of his own DNA, as well as his
Magnus.
perpetual companion known as Urda. However, before the Primarch project could be complete, a great tragedy struck, and each of the infant Primarchs was scattered across the galaxy. Now, in recent books, it was revealed that Urda played a major role in this. She learned of the Emperor's plans for her children and the life of endless war that awaited them. She acted against him and set her sons free, choosing to send her children as far away from their father as she could.
Dude, she was just setting them free. She set them free! Imagine thinking that way. Oh, they're gonna have bad futures, so I will set you free. It's a little baby, just hits it to the space. I will set you free.
In this way, she hoped that they could just live normal lives. Now, whether or not she had been manipulated by chaos is not entirely clear, but it's safe to assume
this guy, what an edgelord. Look at him. This guy. He's an edgy boy right there.
that as a mother, she was doing what she thought was right for her children.
Oh my god.
Now, the Great Crusade is a period in time in which the Emperor and his armies journeyed across the stars to make contact with all of the human worlds. The goal was to bring them back into the Imperium, while simultaneously locating all of the missing Primarchs. These worlds had been cut off from the rest of humanity for thousands of years, and many of them had completely forgotten their origins. Some welcomed the Space Marines with open arms, happy to be part of something greater than themselves. well, others were resistant and wanted to remain free. However, the Emperor's edict basically meant refusal was
He's pouting. Do you see that? He's mewing. He's either pouting or mewing. What an expression. I love it.
not an option. The worlds could either join peacefully or by force. The threat of violence from such an advanced society was often enough to bring them into compliance. But in other cases, the Imperium would unleash untold
pouting, stop
devastation
it.
across these planets until a surrender was finally issued.
He's
As the
pouting.
Crusade progressed, the Imperium was ramping up production on ships and new Astartes, and their armies were growing stronger and stronger by the day. Each of the worlds that was conscripted into compliance would end up having to pay a tithe to the Imperium, sometimes between 5 and 25% of all of their natural resources or human population to be used as soldiers. Additionally, over the course of the Grand Crusade, each of the Primarchs would eventually be
Crusade.
located and would be reunited with their own legion of Space Marines. In total, the Emperor created 20 different
God, this
legions,
guy's
each
so
one having
metal.
been crafted from the DNA of their corresponding Primarch. And
He's
since
a
each of the
cool-
Primarchs were incredibly different
That's a cool art right here. Ah, that's pretty cool. Damn. I don't recognize anybody. Or maybe, you know what? Maybe I recognize this guy. The purple what? Fulgrim? Yeah? Maybe? Am I right? This one's good. Oh, this is Jakatai. He's the only one with this kind of hairstyle, I think. That's all I know. This is Gilliman? This purple boy? Why is he purple? Oh, he has that circle behind him. Okay, it's Gilliman then. Gotta go? Okay, see you later, right, son? Thanks for dropping by. Clean your room. It's blue, it's purple, it's purplish. This is blue. Here. This one's blue. Can you see this if I mean, it's kind of blue, but it's a bit purple. You know what? I don't know who these people are. It's a beautiful art.
having been crafted from the DNA of
That's
their
a perfect
corresponding
blueberry.
Primarch. And since each of the Primarchs were incredibly different from one another, all of the legions had different specialties. The Raven Guard were masters of stealth-based warfare, whereas the Iron Warriors were siege experts. Now, the Great Crusade was incredibly brutal, but from the Imperium's perspective, everything was going according to plan. That was until treachery began to dig its roots throughout the Space Marine legions. Horus Lupercal, the War Master, Primarch of the Luna Wolves, who had been chosen to lead in the Emperor's absence after he returned to Terra, would turn against the Imperium and fold 9 of the 18 Space Marine legions, as
That's
well as
Horus,
many
right?
sects of the
Yeah,
Imperial
yeah, I
Guard and
knew it.
Adeptus Mechanicus,
He's
in a
the bald
terrifying
one.
civil war against the
With the
Emperor.
red
This
background
event would
on
come
his
to be known
baldness.
as the Horus Heresy.
So why is the Horus Heresy so important to the storyline? This is probably the most well-documented points in time in all of 40k. And it's that moment where the hope that I mentioned before gets completely crushed. Humanity was on the right path. They were putting all the pieces back together after the end of the Age of Strife. But with the introduction of treachery to the Space Marine legions, that all came crashing down. And at the current point in the 40k timeline, they're still pretty much putting the pieces back together even 10,000 years later. Now, even though the Horus Heresy and 30k in general are technically a prequel to 40k, you could arguably call it a completely separate franchise. And one of the most important things to me in it is, as somebody who got really into 40k before I knew anything about the Horus Heresy, the Primarchs were always these larger-than-life demigod-type characters, like Hercules and Odysseus, that were just spoken about as if they were legend. You didn't even really know if they were real. But when you start reading the Horus Heresy books, they're main characters. And just seeing 2 of the Primarchs interact with one another and speak to each other was mind-blowing for me. This timeline sees a lot of the factions that you'll see in 40k get incredibly fleshed out, with the exceptions of the one that haven't really been introduced yet, like the Tau or the Tyranids. And technically the Necrons were there too, but they were still asleep in their tomb worlds.
So the Horus
Sleepy.
Heresy is probably the
They're so
most
sleepy.
well-documented period of time within the Warhammer 40k timeline, as the entire thing is only about 9 years long, yet the Horus Heresy novel series is still being written as of the time of this recording and has over 60 novels in it.
Sheesh.
Even more so if you count all of the novellas and short stories that were created to support the main books. Now, needless to say, there is an time of this recording and has over 60 novels in it. Even more so
Ooh. They have their own book. Magnus the Red. He's called the Red? Is that why people call him the nerd? Because he's called the Red? Lemon. Oh, I like this guy because he's blonde. Also like Fulgrim because he has beautiful hair. He's beautiful. Perturabo. Oh. This guy reminds me of bad things because there's a commenter on my videos who named himself this guy. What a weirdo. He's role playing in my comment section. It's this guy. Lorgar! Oh, there it is. Bearer of word. Alright.
so if you count all of the novellas and short
Okay, I also remember
stories that were
Volkan.
created to support
Because he showed up in Emperor TTS. Well, Gilman I remember because I know somebody who likes this guy.
the main books. Now, needless to say, there is an absolutely ton of stuff that happens in the series, but I'm going to tell you just what you need to know. So, for a time, the Emperor led the Great
Peter.
Crusade himself. However, he needed to begin work on what was known to him as the Webway Project back on Earth. This bit of information had
Horus didn't clench his cheeks and the heresy crawled up his butt. Peter Robo, Babe Rage, every chance he gets, yeah. It's just a prequel. Oh, those are prequels, those books. Did you also read those books? Anybody read those books? My goodness. My goodness. I only read 5 of Horus Heresy books. Vulcan leaves. Stomp stomp. Far behind. Where's your best Iron Warriors meme? I don't know. I got no memes for you.
not
No
been revealed
memes.
to any of his Primarchs, a fact that would end up causing
Except
resentment to
that
build up in many of his sons. Now, if the
half of
project had
them
been
are about-
successful, it would have
That's the meme I
completely
know. No, I'm
eliminated
joking, I don't know.
humanity's reliance on warp travel. Unfortunately, that didn't end up happening, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So a new War Master was appointed to act in his stead. Horus Lupercal of the Luna Wolves was chosen for this role. Now, he was still a Primarch with his own legion, but for all intents and purposes, he would
He's
be
bald.
the voice of the Emperor. Any decision that Horus made would be as if it came from the Emperor himself.
Those
Now,
books
he
are
had his
pretty rare,
faults,
not
of
many
course,
reprints,
just like
but
the
luck
rest
to
of his
get one.
brothers.
Sheesh.
But when he was chosen as the
Dude! Dude! Why don't they reprint it? Why do they focus on other parts of the franchise instead of the books? If they're so rare, you could just reprint it and people would buy that stuff, right? Because people like the books. I'm sure people like the books. They don't have to do anything much. They could just reprint the books again. People are gonna buy it. They're gonna get money. Right? I was collecting the English versions, but I gave up and started collecting translated ones. Why indeed? Dude! They should just reprint the books or like make official graphic novel. Okay, I need to know if there's a graphic novel. There should be a graphic novel on this. I feel like it's really good material for a graphic novel. Why don't they do that? There is a series. Oh, okay. Graphic novel. Hmm. You should make a graphic novel about the Mechanicus. I like Mechanicus. They're too busy shooting themselves in the foot. Dude, they should make a graphic novel or just print the books. I mean, there's a lot of IP that excels in graphic novels and comics, and I feel like this is one of them. It should it should theoretically excel in graphic novels, right? Because there's so much lore. If there's so much lore, you want to see it unfold. You want visuals. You want story. So logically, if you think about it, the novels and comics and graphic novels work really well for this kind of IP. Comics are a dying medium? Yeah, because these big companies don't make them. There's a lot of indie comics, but these companies, I don't understand why they don't want to make comics. Comics are cool. Or they could just make an anime. Make anime! Warhammer anime.
Master. Even though a few Primarchs grumbled about how it should have been them, they all recognized Horus's greatness. And for a time, he served his role incredibly well. Now that would all change on the moon of Davin, when Horus was mortally injured by the planetary governor who had been corrupted by Nurgle, wielding a blade known as the Anathame, a sword that was said to be so deadly that it could kill even that which was unkillable. This wound placed Horus in a coma, and none of the apothecaries available on Horus's flagship, the Vengeful Spirit, were able to cure him. Now, to Horus's Marines at the time, this seemed like a freak accident. However, that's not exactly what happened. You see, there was this chaplain named Erebus, who was a member of the Wordbearers Legion and had been accompanying the Luna Wolves. You see, he had actually stolen the blade from a group of people known as the Anorex, and then provided it to the man that would end up landing the blow, all as part of his careful plan to end up corrupting Horus. It was revealed that he had been behind the scenes orchestrating the heresy at the command of his Primarch Lorgar, who, after having been reprimanded by the Emperor for spreading his worship, which completely went against his ideals, had sought out other gods more worthy of their devotion. The Wordbearers would inevitably discover the Chaos Gods and set in motion events that would lead to the bloodiest civil war humanity had ever seen. Now back on the Vengeful Spirit, Erebus recommended bringing Horus to the Temple of the Serpent Lodge, a place on Davin, where they could use sorcery to heal him. Now this was a diabolic place that was linked to the ruinous powers of the Chaos Gods, a fact that was unknown to the Luna Wolves at the time. Many of the Marines were against this, but they didn't really see any other options. So in desperation, they agreed to try what Erebus wanted. And it was here in the temple that Horus was put into a dreamlike fugue state. And in this dream, he would be manipulated by the Chaos Gods and the astral spirit of Erebus into turning against the Emperor. He was shown visions of the future, of the galaxy in flames, of a human imperium that worshipped the Emperor as a god. Humanity had descended into a new dark age, and the Emperor didn't care about humanity. He had just been using them this entire time in order to obtain godhood. Now during this, the astral spirit of Magnus, the Primarch of the Thousand Suns Legion, appeared before Horus and tried to prevent what was happening. But unfortunately, he was ultimately unsuccessful, and the corruption had taken root in Horus's heart. When Horus finally awoke, he had been healed and his allegiance had changed. He set about orchestrating the downfall of the Imperium. Now 7 of the other Primarchs, Lorgar of the Wordbearers, Mortarion of the Death Guard, Fulgrim of the Emperor's Children, Portorabo of the Iron Warriors, Angron of the World Eaters, Alpharius of the Alpha Legion, and Conrad
Wait, we need to see that again, huh? I need to see this bald people again.
He set about orchestrating the downfall of the Imperium. Now 7 of the other Primarchs, Lorgar of the Word...
Bald! Lorgar.
Mortarion of the Death Guard.
Bald!
Fulgrim of the Emperor's Children.
Not bald.
Portorabo of the Iron
Bald!
Warriors, Angron of the World Eaters.
Not bald. Is this hair? Looks like wire though. Maybe he's bald with wire dreadlocks. Bald.
Alfarius of the Alpha
Bald.
Legion, and Conrad Kurz of the Night
Bald.
Lords would join with Horus and pledge their allegiance to his cause. Now, each of the traitor Primarchs realized that not all of their Space Marines would end up following them after their heresy had been revealed, and thus it was determined which of the Marines were likely to remain loyal and which ones would side with their Primarch. With the Loyalists identified, the traitor legions would end up purging an enormous amount of their own men. This would take place on the world of Istvan III, when the Marines that were selected for purging were sent down to the planet's surface to fight against the Xeno species that had claimed it. The mission was basically bogus, and the real reason they had been sent down was the traitors in orbit planned on wiping them out all in one fell swoop. They would then inevitably virus bomb the planet, and any Marines that were not killed by the virus bombing were then set ablaze as the gas clouds were ignited and a massive wall of fire spread out in every direction, incinerating everything on the planet's surface. Now, there would be a couple of survivors here, such as Gavriel Loken, a Luna Wolf and one of the 4 members of the Mournival.
Dude, they really should make a comic.
With the Loyalists
They
purged
should
from
make
their
more
own
comics
legions, the
about
traitors
this
would
stuff.
move on to Istvan V, and the events there would later be known as the Drop Site.
Dude, they gotta make. I cannot get over this. They gotta make comics about this stuff, because I just realized, you know how many Marvel comics there are. You know how many Batman comics there are. So many Batman stories. So many versions of Batman. But with this IV, there's already so much stories. You don't have to make different types of a character. You just gotta tell the story in the comic. They gotta make a comic out of this, dude. Oh my god, I cannot believe this. I am disappointed. I need comics. I need comics because reading books is melting my brain. I'd rather read the comics than read the books.
Massacre. The traitors would end up calling for aid from many of the other Loyalist legions, specifically the legions that they felt they wouldn't be able to turn, no matter how convincing their argument. These included the legions and primarchs of the Iron Hands, the Salamanders, and the Raven Guard.
Bald.
The combined forces of the traitor legions would open fire on their own brothers here and slaughter them to a man. The Primarch Ferrus Manus of the Iron
Mainly
Hands
about
was
Black
killed by
Templar and
Fulgrim
Blueberry.
during this battle, but the Primarchs
No,
of the
dude,
other two
they gotta
legions,
tell
Vulcan of
everything.
the Salamanders and
They gotta
Corax of
cover
the Raven
everything.
Guards, would ultimately live on.
And in the
However,
Mechanic
their
was comic.
legions were reduced to a mere
Mechanic
fraction
comic.
of what they once were. The Raven Guard, for example, were said to originally have 80,000 Space Marines, but after the Drop Site Massacre, that had been reduced to 5,000. Shortly after these events and halfway across the galaxy, Magnus of the Thousand
Magnus!
Suns would seek to warn
The
the Emperor
horn.
of Horus's betrayal.
Nipples.
He did this by astral
Nipple horn.
projecting all the way to Terra. He felt like sending a
Horn
message
boobies.
the old-fashioned way wouldn't get there in time, or worse, could have been intercepted by the traitors.
Horn
And
tits.
shortly before this, all psychic powers
your
had been
horn tits?
banned at the Council of Nicaea, so in attempting to warn the Emperor, he was directly going against his orders. But Magnus was doing what he felt he had to. Unfortunately, he would end up being manipulated by the chaos god of treachery, Tzeentch, and ended up destroying a psychic barrier around the Sol system that the Emperor had placed to keep the forces of chaos at bay. Magnus's astral form burst into the throne room, unaware of what he was doing, and hordes of demons followed him in. The Webway project was destroyed, and the Emperor ordered the Space Wolves and Leman Russ to bring Magnus in and
Russ.
answer for his crimes. However, the message was intercepted by Horus, who changed the order to kill Magnus and the Thousand Suns, and burn their world of Prospero. The Space Wolves followed their orders and decimated the planet. In a desperate attempt to save his legion, Magnus made a pact with Tzeentch, who warped him and his surviving sons off of Prospero and to the planet of the Sorcerers, a world deep within the Eye of Terror. Later, Magnus would pledge loyalty to Horus, not out of some form of malice like his brothers, but because he had directly been betrayed by the Imperium. The War Master would lead a horrifically violent crusade against
was
the Imperium,
betrayed.
working ever closer towards Terra and the Imperial Palace. Eventually, the traitors would siege Terra. Horus had been infused with the power of all of the Chaos Gods, and in a great climactic final battle, would engage the Emperor in combat. Still seeing the good in his son, the Emperor would end up holding back, not unleashing his full power, hoping desperately that Horus could still be saved and
he got that
redeemed.
bong
In this
stick.
moment of weakness, Horus managed to land a mortal wound on the Emperor, and with that, the Emperor realized that there was no saving his son, that he had been completely lost to him. So the Emperor unleashed his full power and obliterated Horus so completely that not even his soul survived. Now, in order to keep the Emperor
shit.
alive, the Astronomicon was quickly converted into a makeshift life
That's when he
support
started
system.
his
The Emperor's
his
psychic
podcast.
mic would be used to power it, and the machine would keep him from
Emperor,
truly dying. And here the
I guess it's
emperor
not
would
a
remain for the
podcast.
next 10,000 years. His physical body little more than a decaying corpse. While his spiritual body was free to roam the warp, and by all accounts, has been growing stronger ever since.
His
Now, one of the
spiritual
greatest ironies of
streams, the
40k
warp.
is that since the emperor is a perpetual, if he was to physically die, he would be reborn. This is a fact that the other members of the Imperium are not aware of. So over the last 10,000 years, they've been doing everything they can to keep him alive. But if he had just been allowed
Nobody
to die,
knows
he
he's a
would have come back.
perpetual?
The traitor legions would be pushed back from Terra. With the
Oh.
War Master dead, their siege had failed. And in the period of time leading up to the
They
31st
don't know.
millennium, an event known as the Scouring would take place, where all of the traitor legions were hunted down and forced into exile within the Eye of Terror. After the heresy had fully concluded, the Imperium was left to put all of the pieces back together. The Emperor was gone, the traitor legions had been pushed back, and a period of rebuilding took place. In order to prevent such a tragedy from ever happening again, a council of representatives known as the High Lords of Terra were implemented to
Oh,
rule
it's
in
the
the Emperor's
boomers,
place,
the High Lords.
each coming from a different background
Talking
and
about
having
poop all the
different
time.
goals and objectives rather than the Imperium being ruled by a single individual. Now, that being said, they were also supposed to quote-unquote interpret the Emperor's will. Additionally, Guilliman, Primarch of the Ultramarines, would propose that the Space Marine legions be broken up into chapters, each of which containing no more than 1,000 members. The idea was that if treachery on this scale had happened once before, then it could inevitably happen again, and no single man should have the power of an entire Space Marine legion at his disposal. Many of the Primarchs did not agree with this, namely Vulcan of the Salamanders, whose legion had been reduced to just a mere fraction of its original power, or Rogel Dorn of the Imperial Fist, who viewed this action as a further weakening of the Legion's strength, after they had just concluded the bloodiest civil war in their history. Regardless of how they felt, the book that Guilliman had penned that outlined how all of the chapters should be organized, known as the Codex Astartes, was eventually implemented, and all of the legions were broken up.
The 10,000 years between the Horus Heresy and
Codex.
the 41st millennium is where the bulk of 40k lore takes place. This is where the majority of the books are set. And you could make the argument that all of these events are definitely important, but they're not critical to understanding the framework of the entirety that is 40k. But there are a few details that I feel like you need to understand. The first and most major is that during this time period,
Fucking hammer.
we see all of the Primarchs inevitably end up disappearing. And all for various reasons. Leman Russ dives into the warp, headed off after the traitors. Corvus Corax disappears in shame after he tried to rebuild his legion by cutting corners. And inevitably accidentally made a whole bunch of Raven Guard abominations. And Guilliman was mortally wounded by
Ravenguard.
his brother Fulgrim, and subsequently put in
Fulgrim the
stasis.
Beautiful.
So it's kind of mirroring what happened with his father. In the span of this 10,000 years, we'll also see the Damocles Crusade, where the Tower introduced to the storyline. First contact with the Tyranids also occurs here. Oh yeah, and the alarm clock for the Necrons ends up going off and all their tomb worlds start coming back online. But we're jumping ahead to the 13th Black Crusade, because this is where the timeline finally started moving forward.
When we find ourselves
There's
in the 41st
more.
millennium, the events of the
Oh
Horus
my
Heresy
God,
have
there's
slipped
more.
into legend. Most people alive during this time have no idea what transpired back then.
I gotta pee. Hold on. Hold that thought, Weshan. Wow. Hello.
Whether that be because of the intentional purging of specific documents, a covering up of the truth, or just that it happened so long ago that they don't remember. This isn't true of the Space Marines. They remember it all too well. But whereas most of the Loyalist Marines that are alive in the 41st millennium know of these events because of the records kept by their chapter, however, when it comes to the traitor Marines that exist in the Eye of
smile.
Terror, time flows differently there. And most of those Marines were the very same individuals that participated in the Horus Heresy. So they remember those events because they were actually there. Now, the Eye of Terror was a pretty terrible place to live. There really weren't a lot of resources, and the traitor legions were far from united, each one of them fracturing off into a bunch of different warbands, led by various powerful warlords that were pretty much just pursuing their own interests. In fact, at this point, Chaos fought amongst itself more than it ever fought against the Imperium or Xenos. Now, one of these Space Marines in particular was named Abaddon, and he had been the first captain of the
Abaddon.
Luna Wolves and one of the 4 members of Horus's Mournival during the Horus Heresy. Abaddon sought to unite the traitors and would end up reforming his legion, drawing members from all of the various Chaos warbands. This legion would be called the Black Legion. Over the several thousand years that passed between the Horus Heresy and the 41st millennium, Abaddon, or an appointed representative, would lead what were known as the Black Crusades, Chaos incursions out of the Eye of Terror back into real
Crusades.
space, to attack various Imperial worlds. Now, for the longest time, it looked like the traitors just weren't really very good at conquering, as every single crusade ultimately failed to bring about the complete collapse of the Imperium. However, it was revealed in the last few years that each one of these crusades had a much smaller objective, that Chaos was actually playing the long game. The very first of these Black Crusades would take place in the 31st millennium, about 500 years after the Scouring. Now, in response to these raids, the Imperium would end up fortifying the planet that was right outside of the Eye of Terror, known as Cadia, and it became one of the most fortified positions in the entire Imperium next to Terra itself. For 10,000 years, Cadia stood sentinel right outside of the Eye, ready to punish and push back anything that would try to leave
Right
it.
outside
However,
of the
in the
Eye.
41st millennium, all of the small victories that Chaos had managed to achieve over the previous 12 Crusades would come together in the 13th. This was the period that saw Abaddon's forces assault the Cadian Gate, and in the end, Abaddon ended up sacrificing one of his Blackstone fortresses, an ancient alien spaceship made of the same material the Necrons used back during the War in Heaven to create their pylons. He hurled it at Cadia
Oh my
like an
God.
artificial meteor, the impact being absolutely
is that?
apocalyptic. And not just for the planet, but for the vast network of Blackstone pylons that had been built under Cadia's surface millions of years ago by the Necrons. You see, Cadia wasn't existing just as a blockade for anything trying to come out of the Eye of Terror, but that system of Blackstone had actually been keeping it from growing. With Cadia destroyed, the Eye began to grow out of control, and would
Eyeball.
eventually spread all the way across the galaxy. This was known as the Cicatrex Maledictum, or more commonly
Maledictum.
as the Great Rift. It split the universe completely
There's a
in
rift
half, and all of the Imperial
in the
worlds that were on
universe.
the opposite side of Terra were suddenly plunged into darkness, and were cut off from the rest of the Imperium. To say this was a massive victory for the forces of Chaos is a gross understatement. This was single-handedly one of the most devastating events in the entire history of the galaxy. And after the forming of the Great Rift is the time period we currently find ourselves in the 40k timeline. Recent events have seen the resurrection of Guilliman, who's come back to lead the Imperium, and is pretty horrified by what he's seeing, as it's been completely dominated by superstition and religion, where they worship his father as a god even though thousands of years ago he specifically told them not to. During this time, we would also see the rise of the Primaris Marines, and the induction of Guilliman's Indomitus Crusade, which sought to reunite the worlds on the other side of the Great Rift. But these are all topics that we'll dive in more in future videos.
And that's it. That's everything that I feel like you need to understand about 40k in order to understand the storyline. And the things that I chose to leave out, it's not that they're not important. It's just that things like the Age of Strife and the 13th Black Crusade end up being a lot more important than something like the Damocles Crusade. You could read 100 of the 40k novels and never touch anything in the War of the Beast or the War for Armageddon, and you probably wouldn't be too confused. But if you don't know
I
what
don't
an
understand anything what
STC
they're
is,
saying.
or know
Those
what the
are
Age of
words.
Strife was, you're probably gonna get pretty confused because these things tend to come up a lot. But what do you guys think? Do you feel strongly that an event that I left out should have been mentioned in this video? If so,
I
let
don't
me know
know.
down in the comments what it is and
I
why
have
you
no
feel so
opinion
strongly
over
about
this.
it. And a lot of YouTubers at the end
Thank
of
you
their
for
video
the
tell you to
bacon.
like and
Again,
subscribe,
bacon
which if
flay.
you want to do that, it's super
Bacon fries.
appreciated. But
Yeah.
more importantly, go down to my comment section and leave a like
Bacon
on
here.
all the people that are leaving valuable information that you think are important.
That was pretty cool. It's a good video. I forgot 90% of it. War in Heaven, Rise of Humanity, Dark Age of Technology, Age of Strife, The Unification Wars and Great Crusade, Horus Heresy, 13th Black Crusade, Closing Dots. Dude, I forgot. I only remembered the stuff that were already repeated from Brick's timeline and some stuff from Emperor DTS. But most of it, I forgot. Wow! Thank you very much for the 2 Baccaros. Thank you. I appreciate it. That's pretty good. Okay. Next stream. What are we gonna do next stream? Oh, we're gonna watch the Mechanicus one. Cookie Vander, Bad Person, Big Mini, Space Marines, Big Minis, Captain Salamanders, they're okay. Okay, we're gonna watch Mechanicus. There you go. Next stream, Mechanicus, and do I wanna watch Leotin's timeline? Bro, do I wanna fry my brain? Someone said it's like 3 hours or something. Oops. What the fuck is Warhammer Explained Full Beginner's Guide? How long is this? It's 22 minutes. Lore, history, and order. Oh! He tackles them per part. It's not one whole video. It's not just one video. There's a lot of videos. Okay. I didn't realize that. I thought it was just one whole video, one big video. Cause if that was the case, dude, my brain is not gonna last. Cause here, it's different videos. It's not one big video. Doggy Vander was the goodest, but I don't remember who he is, not gonna lie. Anyway, we're gonna watch Mechanicus. Because I'm very interested in the Mechanicus. And then... what the fuck are these? These are very specific stuff. Okay, well, we're gonna watch the Mechanicus video and we're gonna start with this as well. Yes? Yes. And then after we finish watching all of this history, right? I will tell you the history. After watching all this history and lore, I will tell you the history from what I remember. Because that's one sure way to find out if I actually understand anything. Is any information actually being stored in the brain? Is there any brain? We'll find out. Because I forget a lot of things. You know what I'm gonna do? Okay, this is actually the plan. I will tell you the plan right now. The plan, after watching all the lore, is I will tell you the lore in what I remember, and I'm gonna do an art stream. It's probably gonna be my first art stream on YouTube for a long time. I'm gonna like make an art stream and I will also illustrate what happened. That's gonna be a fun stream. That's the plan. That's gonna be like the future plan. Okay? Okay. We gotta watch all this lore stuff. And then after that, what do we do? Oh yeah. Of course, there's still the Emperor TTS, there's the Hell's Reach, there's other things. Maybe play games. I don't know what games I would play though, but that's gonna be in the far future. We don't know. We don't know. Do I stream Friday? Saturday? No, Saturday. Next stream gonna be Saturday. Next stream gonna be Saturday. Also, it's my birthday on Friday. Do I wanna stream on YouTube or Twitch? Nah, I'll probably stream on Twitch on Friday. Gonna stream tomorrow on Twitch and on Friday on Twitch. I'm gonna be older on Friday. Saturday, stream on YouTube, yeah. So Wednesday, Friday, Twitch, Saturday, YouTube. I could make it Sunday. I could move it to Sunday. Let's see. Nice plan. Hello. Soft. You're early. I don't know what to do on my birthday. I kinda have an idea, but whatever. Nice timing, Soft. Soft, go to sleep. It's time for you to sleep. I was here since an hour ago. Happy birthday in advance. Thank you, thank you. I'm gonna be 70 years old on Friday. No, just kidding. I'm gonna be like 54 or so. I will let you guess what I will let you not guess. Formulate in your brain how old I am, because I'm not telling you how old I am. Mama, 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 mama. 54 years in service. Wow. You were here since an hour ago. Name all the Warhammers. Yay, yay. Okay. You guys want to chat a bit more, or do I end the stream? What do you want to talk about? Talk about feelings? No feelings, only war. No feelings. Ay, ay, ay. "26, me? Who knows?" Who knows? I'm quite old though. Older than most people, probably. You did it, Horus Heresy. You were truly Warhammer 4000. You can't even remember my classmates, let alone the Warhammer, dude. You gotta remember all the Warhammer stuff. As a moderator, it's your duty to remember all the Warhammers. Ay, ay, ay. You know what? I need to write that down. I will write it down so I don't get distracted next stream. Did I say Mechanicus, right? Mechanicusi. And then the Leotin. I'm actually gonna watch Leotin. I remember talking about this. I did say like at the very... Did I say that at the very first stream? Probably not. Maybe like second or third stream I'm gonna watch Leotin, but I never watched him. So we could start watching that. And then maybe after that we're gonna go back to TTS or so. I don't know, we'll see. It's a secret. You'll find out. You just need now to discover Warhammer Fantasy. You are the Warhammer fan? Name all Space Marine chapters. Yeah. It's off. What? Name all the Marine chapters. Warhammer Fantasy Old World? You'll need to take notes if you watch Leotin. I don't want to take notes, dude. I just wrote down which videos I'm gonna watch. That was fun. Today was fun, except for the part where I got disconnected from the first stream. The OBS took so long to reconnect to the previous link. My stream just ended right there. I didn't even attempt to reconnect. Just started a new stream. Jesus. Thanks for watching, everyone. Like and subscribe. Thank you. Please subscribe. So close to 1,000. So close! And thank you very much to Bacon Slayer for the $42 Renos. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Total of $42. Thank you. Bye-bye. Good night, sweet dreams. Hope you enjoy your week. Clean your room. Work hard. Party hard. Twerk hard. Goodbye. See you next time. I will post you're gonna see the next live because I will post it. So you will not miss it. See you next time. This is the ending song. Ending song. Thank you for watching. Members Jacob Dockwat, Blaze Jr., Kaser K, Dagenheart. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Bacon Slayer, for the super chats. Goodbye. Bye-bye.